Chapter 487. When Wu saw the fierce side of his master's wife, he still tried his best to persuade her. Mistress, master has ordered us to take revenge on this matter. If you go and denounce him, it will be bad if it causes an uproar. Lan Yu suddenly stopped in his tracks, his expression fluctuating as he thought to himself, although that old man is dead, he still has a lot of fans in the martial sect. The great clan elder was once his trusted aide. If my poor son really didn't die, then wouldn't it be a huge disaster if they found out? Lan Yu's heart trembled. He turned around and stared at Wu, asking, "Where is Tang Zheng?" "He's still in the capital for the time being." "Immediately, take me to see him," Lan Yu ordered impatiently. Wu asked nervously, "Mistress, could it be that Tang Zheng is your son?" Lan Yu bit his lips, hesitated for a moment, and said, "I don't know either, but since he has that jade pendant on him, then I must investigate and get to the bottom of it." Wu's emotions became extremely complicated. Although she had already guessed that this would happen, when she was about to confirm it, she was unable to determine whether this matter was good or bad. The martial sect had always taken hunting cultivators as their responsibility, and in the end, the son of the martial sect's sect master was also a cultivator. Wasn't this a huge irony? Of course, Wu could not bear to see the reputation of the martial sect damaged and his master's reputation destroyed. However, she could not wait to find out the whole story. If Tang Zheng was really the son of her master and mistress, then wouldn't a family reunion be the happiest thing in the world? Wu was an orphan. Although she was raised by her master and mistress since she was young, she did not have her own real parents after all. Occasionally, she would urgently wish that her biological parents were by her side. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, she was inclined to let the family reunite. "Mistress, if Tang Zheng is really your and master's child, then what should we do? Is he a cultivator?" Wu asked tentatively. "Humph. So what if he's a cultivator? That was how that old man concluded that my child couldn't practice martial arts, but was a genius in cultivating magic. That was why he couldn't tolerate an infant. Now, no matter who it is, if they dare to harm my child, I will fight them to the end even if I have to give up my life," Lan Yu said aggressively. Looking at the resolute Lan Yu, Wu could not help but feel a little envious of Tang Zheng. If he really was his master's child, then he would be the happiest child in the world to have a mother like his master's wife. However, when Wu heard that the old sect leader had determined that the baby in swaddling clothes was a genius in cultivating magic, he was even more certain that Tang Zheng was that baby, because he was a genius cultivator. Without stopping, the two immediately set off for the capital. At this moment, Tang Zheng was already sitting in the Yan family's living room. Several important figures of the Yan family were gathered together, and the King of Medicine was also accompanying him. Just now, Yan Patian had personally welcomed him at the entrance. His etiquette was so high that it was truly rare. As the host and guest sat down, Tang Zheng first thanked Yan Luyun for his generous gift at the auction. Yan Patian hurriedly said that he was welcome, but in reality, it was the Yan family who had taken advantage of him. The price of the 2 life-continuing pills was much cheaper than the other families. That was a huge bargain. Yan Patian looked at Tang Zheng benevolently, and sighed. "Truly, the waves behind the Yangtze River are pushing the waves in front. Previously, when I acknowledged you as my master in Medicine King City, I was so shocked that my old heart was about to stop." Tang Zheng laughed and said, "Elder Yan is too serious. This time, you have provoked the dragon group. Xing Feng is a vile person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. You must be careful," Yan Patian reminded him. Seeing that he and Wu were so serious about this matter, Tang Zheng did not dare to let his guard down and nodded in agreement. Yan Patian did not expect to be able to completely rope in Tang Zheng in just a few days. This was a long-term process that was imperceptible, so he was not in a hurry. After chatting with Tang Zheng for a while, he found an excuse to leave. The King of Medicine and Yan Qishan followed him and left the hall. As a result, only Yan Qingyi and Yan Luyun were left in the hall. Yan Qingyi gave Yan Luyun a look, and Yan Luyun also found an excuse to leave. Only Tang Zheng and Yan Qingyi were left in the hall. Immediately, Tang Zheng's expression became strange. What kind of medicine was this Yan family selling in their gourd? Were they trying to use a beauty trap on him? But there was no need for a nun to use a beauty trap, right? Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing Yan Qingyi stand up and walk towards him, he did not bat an eyelid and stared straight at her. Without a doubt, Yan Qingyi was indeed a beauty, and it was a kind of otherworldly beauty that was not tainted by the smoke and fire of the mortal world, causing one to not have the slightest bit of dirty thoughts.
Can you accompany me for a walk?
Yan Qingyi's red lips parted slightly, and her voice was very light, as if it was not tainted with the smell of smoke and fire. With the invitation of a beauty, if Tang Zheng mercilessly refused, it would not be justifiable. Thus, he nodded and stood up. Yan Qingyi did not say anything else and directly walked out of the door. Tang Zheng followed closely behind her and was a step behind. Looking at her back, he suddenly had a great interest in this young miss of the Yan family. She had an identity that others yearned for even in their dreams, but she did not cherish it in the slightest. She also did not do the things of a rich second generation, and instead left the mortal world to become a monk. It has to be said that she was an anomaly. Towards this kind of unusual person, Tang Zheng naturally had a desire to learn more. Yan Qingyi's steps were very slow, but each step seemed to have been measured with a ruler, not more, not less, not even a bit off. After passing through a winding corridor and passing through a small doorway, the scene in front of them suddenly opened up. A steep cliff and snow-white clouds impressively appeared in front of them. This was the beautiful scenery of Longxiang Mountain. The Yan family occupied this piece of land with good feng shui, which really made people envious. Not far from the cliff, there was a small and exquisite Taoist temple. This temple with black bricks and black tiles was hidden in the forest. It stood next to the cliff, adding a trace of quiet and secluded feeling to the mountain forest. Is that the Taoist temple you cultivate in? Tang Zheng curiously asked. Yan Qingyi glanced at it and lightly nodded. This doesn't really match your identity. Tang Zheng joked. With Yan Qingyi's identity, even if she was to become a monk, she would not be in such a shabby little Taoist temple. It's only a place for a monk to live. As long as one has the Tao in their heart, what difference does it make whether they are big or small? Yan Qingyi lightly said. He, as expected of a monk, your knowledge is indeed different from us, this kind of layman. Layman? You are not necessarily too modest. You are a cultivator. How many cultivators are there in this world? I think you should know better than me. You should also understand that your identity is not simple, so how could you be a layman? But no one said that cultivators are not laymen. They are always entangled with worldly matters, unlike you who have seen through the mortal world. If you are not a layman, then what are you? Yan Qingyi looked at the clouds in the distance and said, I have not seen through the mortal world. People who cultivate the Tao in their hearts. There is no need to see through the mortal world. If you see through everything, then how can you cultivate the Tao? This Tao is the Tao of the world, and it is closely related to the mortal world. Only by understanding the mortal world can you truly cultivate the Tao. Tang Zheng exclaimed in surprise. This point was out of Tang Zheng's expectations, and seemed to have a deeper meaning. There are thousands of Taoists in the world. Everyone has their own Tao, and everyone's Tao is different. However, many people's Tao is too vulgar. They may not be able to understand their own Tao even if they spend their whole lives. May I ask what your Tao is? My Tao. Tang Zheng frowned. He had never thought about this question. He had experienced ups and downs along the way, but did he have a Tao? Tang Zheng really did not know the answer. You don't know? Tang Zheng nodded honestly. I am just a vulgar person. I really don't like to ponder about these complicated and profound things. No, it's just that your Tao has not yet revealed itself. When you continue to walk step by step in the future, you will eventually comprehend your Tao. At that time, your achievements and your cultivation will rise to another level. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. Then I'll take advantage of your auspicious words. However, you specially brought me here for more than just talking about Tao, right? Yan Qingyi withdrew her gaze from the distance and then stared at Tang Zheng. When their eyes met, Tang Zheng found that her gaze was deep. There was a kind of realm of selflessness that made people involuntarily fall into her eyes. Do you believe in fate? Yan Qingyi asked. Fate? Tang Zheng shook his head blankly. I don't know, but I do know one thing. I believe in myself. I believe that I can control my own fate with my own strength. It seems that you are very confident. You can say that. When Tang Zheng was a child, he believed that his own efforts could be exchanged for higher grades. Now he believed that hard work could increase his cultivation, and thus enhance his strength and control his own fate.
Everyone has their own fate.
You are the same. Since there is fate, it means that it is arranged by the heavenly Tao. Then there are traces to follow, and even know in advance. Tang Zhang laughed involuntarily and said, "Your words are exactly the same as the fortune-tellers on the street. I believe that if you go and do fortune-telling, your business will definitely be good." Yan Qingyi acted as if she did not hear him and continued, "To predict the future is to know a person's fate in advance."
Oh, is there anyone in the world who has this ability? Tang Zheng asked casually. Yan Qingyi nodded seriously. Tang Zheng was stunned. He was just casually asking, why did she nod so firmly? Do you want to know your own fate? Yan Qingyi asked. Hee. Do you really want to be a fortune-teller?
Tang Zheng laughed involuntarily.
Please answer me.
Yan Qingyi was still serious. Seeing that she did not seem to be joking, Tang Zheng's smile gradually disappeared, and he looked at her suspiciously. If she was not Yan Qingyi, Tang Zheng would definitely think that he met with a scammer, and immediately turn around and leave. Since she was not joking, and she said with such certainty that there was such a person who could predict the future, it meant that she knew this person or she was this person.
Tang Zheng was shocked by his own deduction.
Although he was a cultivator and knew mysterious techniques, he never thought that he could predict the future, because that kind of ability was too heaven-defying.
Chapter 488. Yan Qingyi looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. She was also taking a huge risk by saying these words.
If others knew that Yan Qingyi had the ability to predict the future, then the Yan family would definitely become the target of public criticism. This was because no one was willing to see such an opponent, because they would seek benefits and avoid harm, and thus develop and grow stronger. He had to eliminate such a heaven-defying opponent before the other party grew stronger.
Yan Qingyi was truly too interested in Tang Zheng.
Although she could predict the future and predicted that Tang Zheng would become a character who saved tens of thousands of people from fire and water in the future, telling him at this moment was also taking a huge risk, because it was extremely likely that it would change the direction of the future.
However, she still couldn't help but want to see what was so special about this future savior.
Tang Zheng's expression changed a few times, and in the end, he let out a long sigh and said, "Forget it, knowing one's own destiny sounds very attractive, but if one knew one's own destiny, then what's the point of living? What's the point of living? What's the point of living? If a person's life loses the excitement of looking forward to the future, then it's fine if they don't want this kind of life."
Yan Qingyi was startled. She did not expect him to reply in such a way.
If an ordinary person had this chance, they would definitely be impatient to know what their future was like, and even Yan Patian would not be able to avoid it. However, Tang Zheng actually resisted the temptation. This was too precious.
Yan Qingyi's calm eyes gradually lit up.
He was indeed not an ordinary person. No wonder he would take on such a great responsibility in the future. Since he didn't want to know, she wouldn't take the risk to say it, in case it changed the direction of the future.
However, Tang Zheng's curiosity was piqued.
He sized up Yan Qingyi from head to toe, as if he wanted to see through her, but after looking at her for a long time, he still found nothing. Yan Qingyi did not have any inner strength in her body, nor did she have any innate qi fluctuations. She was just an ordinary person, but she could actually predict the future.
Tang Zheng felt that it was too mysterious. How do you have the ability to predict the future?
Tang Zheng could not help but ask curiously.
Yan Qingyi smiled indifferently.
Everyone has their own secrets, and I am no exception. Since the other party wasn't willing to say more, then Tang Zheng wouldn't pester him. After chatting for a while, he bid farewell and left. Yan Qingyi stared at Tang Zheng's back as it disappeared into the forest. She muttered to herself, "Tang Zheng, I'm really looking forward to your performance." Tang Zheng left Beijing with Nana, Huang Xiang, and Xiao Bai. After getting off the plane, they went straight to ordinary balance. Mu Hongyan and the others were very busy. When they met again, Tang Zheng found that they were much more haggard. However, when they heard about the funds that Tang Zheng brought back, their haggard faces were swept away. Each of them was glowing, rubbing their hands together, and vowed to do a big job. This business empire was gradually taking shape. Tang Zheng, the hands-off shopkeeper, listened to some general reports and waved his hand, handing everyone over to them. As for how to deal with it, it was up to them to decide. Moreover, Yi Tianlei said not long ago that Mu Hongyan was a business genius. Being able to invite her to manage the overall situation was tantamount to picking up a treasure. Since it was a treasure, of course, he had to make the best use of it. Thus, he had no psychological burden as a hands-off shopkeeper. After staying in ordinary balance for 2 days, this year's winter vacation was very early. There was still some time before the new year. Tang Zheng decided to take advantage of this free time to go to the South Sea Dragon Palace. The Heaven and Earth obsidian was of great importance. If he didn't get it, he would always feel uneasy. Reluctantly saying goodbye to his family and friends, he stepped on the plane that flew to the southernmost part of Wuxia. Whether this trip would be dangerous or not, he still couldn't predict, so he brought Huang Xiang and Xiaobai with him. If there was any danger, they could take care of each other. The spring festival had just started, but there weren't many passengers on this plane. Waiting for the plane to soar into the sky, Tang Zheng began to close his eyes to rest. The plane soared thousands of miles in the sky. The sun was shining outside the window, and occasionally white clouds floated by. The weather was very good. There was an empty seat next to Tang Zheng. Although he closed his eyes to rest, he still felt that someone was sitting next to him. He didn't take it seriously and continued to close his eyes to rest. After a long time, he faintly opened his eyes and inadvertently glanced at the seat next to him. Suddenly, he was frightened, as if he was bitten by a poisonous snake. If it wasn't for the seatbelt, he would have stood up directly. However, he quickly calmed down. His eyes slightly narrowed as he firmly warned the other party, "You're really like a ghost that won't go away. Why are you following me again?" A burst of bell-like laughter rang out. "Tang Zheng, you were so scared when you saw me."
"Am I that ugly? So scary?"
"You're not ugly, but that doesn't mean that ugly people are scary. You're the dignified holy maiden of Li Palace, but instead of staying in Li Palace, you're following me like a ghost."
"What exactly do you want to do? Do you want to kill me?"
Tang Zheng asked in an unfriendly tone. On that rainy night, if not for Wu protecting him, he would have already been killed by Li Xiaotian while he was unconscious. The relationship between Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian was very complicated. The two of them had experienced a lot together, and even in the 10,000 huge mountains, they had experienced many dangers together. It could be said that they had gone through thick and thin together. However, his wariness towards Li Xiaotian was even stronger than his wariness towards Wu. This was because Li Xiaotian was a fickle person that was hard to figure out. Her words and actions changed a lot. Originally, she was still talking and laughing, but in the blink of an eye, she could kill you without even blinking. This kind of person only acted based on their own interests. This kind of person was very terrifying, because you didn't know when you would harm their interests and become their mortal enemy. Hearing Tang Zheng's unfriendly tone, Li Xiaotian laughed and said, "Yes, I really want to kill you, because you are already a huge danger factor. Moreover, you already have enmity towards me, so if I don't kill you before you are completely strong, when you become strong enough in the future, I won't be able to contend against you at all. At that time there will be no hope for me to kill you, and at that time it will be my bad luck. You and I were originally going to stay out of each other's way.
Why are you doing this?"
"Because you are a cultivator, and after witnessing the power of the 100 Transformation Star Lord, I understand the terror of cultivators. If we were to let cultivators return in the future, us martial artists would be in deep trouble. Actually, these were all the responsibilities of the martial sect, but did the people of the martial sect have water in their heads?
Not only did they not kill you, they even helped you.
However, it doesn't matter.
I'll do it for them."
Li Xiaotian's tone was very relaxed, without the slightest fluctuation in his emotions, as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. Tang Zheng asked himself many times if he could not do what she did. No wonder she was able to become the holy maiden of Li Palace. She was indeed different from ordinary people.
"I am completely different from the 100 Transformations Star Lord. Why do you have to target me? People will change."
You are different from him now, but who knows if you will be the same as him in the future. Therefore, the danger had to be strangled in the cradle. In addition, I have always been attached to the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrows. If I kill you, won't I be able to obtain these two divine armaments? Li Xiaotian blinked her big black eyes and said playfully. "Then I'm afraid it won't be as you wish. If you want to kill me, you're still lacking a bit of ability. Moreover, since you have the intention to kill me, I won't let you off either," Tang Zheng said resolutely with a murderous aura.
Tang Zhang did not have the habit of not killing women.
Women were also humans, and since men and women were equal, then if men could kill women, could it be that women could not be killed?
Moreover, the other party was still an enemy. If he did not kill him, could it be that he was waiting for the other party to assassinate him again and again? Wouldn't he be the world's greatest fool? So scary, you can actually ruthlessly attack me. Li Xiaotian patted his chest and pretended to be afraid. Stop acting, there are no other spectators here, so it's useless for you to act.
Moreover, I can't kill you on this plane, otherwise, it won't be good if other people are buried with you.
Tang Zheng said. Yo, you're quite sympathetic. You even know how to care about the lives of others. You're indeed a little different from that 100 transformations Star-Lord. Li Xiaotian joked.
Tang Zheng rolled his eyes at her. He was too lazy to care about her, and prepared to close his eyes to rest. But Li Xiaotian was not prepared to give up just like that, and asked, "Aren't you curious why I came to find you again?"
Tang Zheng remained silent.
Li Xiaotian didn't care and said, "Since you know that I want to kill you, I followed you to the sky. Of course, it's not to accompany you to see the scenery, but for my purpose, to kill you."
Tang Zheng suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like lightning, and was quite frightening. Li Xiaotian chuckled and asked, "Are you afraid? Could it be that you want to kill me on the plane and let so many innocent people die with me?"
Tang Zheng asked coldly.
Hee, innocent people, do you think they are all innocent people? Then why don't you personally ask them if they are innocent?
Li Xiaotian reached out to cover her cherry mouth, and pointed to the other passengers and asked. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly looked up, only to see that there were about 100 people on the plane, and many of them were focused in his direction. When Tang Zheng's gaze swept over, everyone subconsciously lowered their heads, unwilling to look at Tang Zheng. But it was already too late. Tang Zheng had already noticed the clues. These passengers were not ordinary people. Each and every one of them had eyes like lightning, bright and full of expression. One could tell at a glance that they were not good people. Tang Zheng was shocked. There were no innocent people on this plane. The other passengers had already been cleared out, and in their place were enemies who wanted to kill him.
What a big move.
Tang Zheng coldly snorted and said, "You're not afraid, as expected of a body full of guts. Admirable. But from now on, I won't be able to see you again. It's quite a pity." Li Xiaotian shook her head, and said regretfully,
"Stop playing around. Since Li Palace has made such a big move to kill me, then come."
Tang Zheng was suddenly not afraid, and had already unbuckled his seat belt. On the other side, Huang Xiang also quietly unbuckled his seat belt, his face ashen, ready to attack at any time.
Chapter 489.
When Tang Zheng heard this, he carefully looked and found that it was indeed the case. The people from Li Palace were all women, and these were all tall and sturdy men.
"It seems that you have found a helper. I am not your opponent, so of course I need to find a helper. This time my helper is not simple," Li Xiaotian proudly said. Just as he finished speaking, a person walked over.
Tang Zheng's pupils shrank as he stared at the person and coldly said, "Xing Feng, it's you?"
Li Xiaotian was actually working with the Dragon Group. This was really unexpected. "Tang Zheng, I know that you definitely still have the life-continuing pill. Hand it over and we can let you go," Xing Feng murderously said. "You still want the life-continuing pill?"
Tang Zheng coldly said, "You really don't want to give up?"
"Tang Zheng, going against the Dragon Group is going against the country. You are digging your own grave."
"Hung, your words sound dignified and even better than singing.
But what qualifications do you have to represent the country? Don't talk to me about these useless things.
It is you guys who want to go against me and not me who wants to go against you.
If you want to use your strength to bully the weak, then let's see if you are strong enough,"
Tang Zheng said with a smile that did not reach his eyes.
Li Xiaotian coldly watched from the side.
Seeing that Tang Zheng was unyielding, he could not help but clap his hands and said with a smile, "You really have spirit."
Strong. Since it is like this, then what are you waiting for?" Finished speaking, Li Xiaotian stood up and took a few steps back.
Xing Feng did not say anything and waved his hand. In an instant, Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang were surrounded by layers upon layers of people.
"You want to attack me from 10,000 meters up in the air? You guys are dreaming.
Tang Zheng jokingly said. It is because we are 10,000 meters up in the air that you have nowhere to hide and nowhere to run.
Xing Feng proudly said. With the previous experience, Xing Feng had clearly learned his lesson. Is that so?
Tang Zheng did not comment.
Do it.
Xing Feng waved his hand, and more than 10 guns were pointed at Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang.
I know you're not afraid of ordinary guns. Have a taste of the power of these guns. Tang Zheng felt a chill in his heart. These guns were definitely not ordinary guns.
He did not dare to be careless and waited for them.
Bang bang bang.
The other party pulled the triggers together, and bullets shot out from the muzzles. Before the bullets hit Tang Zheng, they exploded, and the air seemed to freeze.
Tang Zheng's expression suddenly changed. He shouted, "Be careful," and pushed out both of his palms. With a whoosh, a strong wind blew in their faces. Everyone felt a burning sensation on their cheeks, as if they were being burned by fire. The cold air produced by the explosion was instantly neutralized, but the other party did not stop. Instead, he continued to pull the trigger. Bullets blotted out the sky and instantly enveloped the space in front of Tang Zheng. You want to force me to submit just like that? Dream on. Sky-swallowing technique. Tang Zheng roared.
He drew a circle in front of his chest with his palm, and an invisible suction force was instantly produced. It was as if a black hole had appeared in the void. The bullets that blotted out the sky disappeared without any warning.
Ah! Many people cried out in alarm. Even Li Xiaotian's eyes flashed with a strange light.
Now it's our turn.
Do it.
Before Tang Zheng finished speaking, he had already leaped out like a fierce tiger. In such a small space, although the enemy had the advantage of numbers, not everyone could use their full strength. There were only about 10 people who could face Tang Zheng face to face. Although the other party was a super soldier, there was still a large gap between their individual strength and Tang Zheng's. Therefore, under Tang Zheng's bold and fierce moves, several people had already fallen. Huang Xiang did not care. He passed by Tang Zheng and directly charged into the enemy's battle. Battle cries rose and fell, and people kept falling. Xing Feng's face was ashen. Li Xiaotian crossed his arms and urged, "Why aren't you using your killer move? If this goes on, your subordinates will be wiped out. But if I kill him like that, I won't be able to get the life-continuing pill. Then I won't be able to report to my superiors." Xing Feng hesitated. The life-continuing pill was something that his superiors wanted. If he failed again, then he really would not have the face to report to his superiors.
Kill him and take his sumaru pouch. Won't you be able to get what you want? Li Xiaotian suggested.
Tang Zheng could make other things appear at any time, so he definitely had a treasure like the sumaru pouch.
This was not difficult for Li Xiaotian and Xing Feng to guess. Okay, kill him.
Xing Feng was also rather envious of the mysterious 4 symbols Venerable One. The life-continuing pill could be handed over to the higher-ups, but if the 4 symbols Venerable One could keep it for his own use, then he could safely make up for his lack of strength. Seeing that Xing Feng's killing intent had been aroused, the corner of Li Xiaotian's mouth curled up, and he sneered in his heart. "Idiot, I have my heaven-shocking bow and shooting sun arrows in my sumaru pouch. How could I let you off so easily?"
Open the cabin door. Xing Feng ordered loudly. With a bang, the cabin door opened, and a strong suction force was produced.
The things inside the cabin flew out of the cabin, and flew 10,000 meters into the air. A few super warriors were also sucked out, while Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang were forced to retreat towards the cabin door. The two of them seemed to have grown roots in the cabin and did not move an inch. However, they could not resist the enemy's pressure. They approached the cabin door step by step, and the huge suction force caused their clothes to flutter, causing their faces to hurt.
What are they doing?
Could it be that they want to force me out of the sky and fall to my death?
Tang Zheng thought suspiciously.
Whiz! With a sharp sound of something tearing through the air, a rocket actually rose into the air and shot towards Tang Zheng.
F***CK. What are they doing? Aren't they afraid of blowing up the plane? Aren't they afraid of death?
Tang Zheng shouted crazily, but facing the continuous barrage of rockets, this was completely different from the bullets from before. In terms of explosive power, the rockets were even stronger. Bang! With a loud explosion, Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang were sent flying by the blazing heat wave, and a large hole was blown in the wall of the cabin. The alarm in the cabin rang non-stop. However, the others acted as if they did not see it. Seeing that Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang were sent flying by the wave of air, everyone immediately jumped out of the hole.
What the hell are they doing? Are they really not afraid of death?
Tang Zheng was dumbstruck. The other party's actions were completely out of his expectations. But soon, Tang Zheng's question was answered, because two flames spurted out from the feet of each super soldier, and their bodies were suspended in mid-air.
So they have special equipment. No wonder they are so fearless. Are they bullying me because I don't have any equipment? Are they planning to fall to my death?
Tang Zheng felt the wind blowing in his ears. The feeling of weightlessness was a test of one's mental and physical endurance.
However, Tang Zheng did not panic.
When he saw the pursuers diving down without holding back, he calmly took out the dragon-trapping lasso. The dragon-trapping lasso was like an extension of his arm, easily binding a few super soldiers. With a few cracking sounds, the equipment on their legs was destroyed by the dragon-trapping lasso, and then these guys without wings quickly fell down, their screams echoing through the sky.
Tang Zheng sneered.
He thought that these super soldiers were really not afraid of death, but it turned out that they knew fear even without equipment. The only person who was not afraid was Huang Xiang. His eyes were wide open as he fell uncontrollably. However, he did not panic, and there was not even the slightest fluctuation in his eyes. Tang Zheng glanced at him and shouted, "Don't just watch, attack the enemy." Huang Xiang's body suddenly froze for a moment, the ghost head blade slashed out in the air, and a person was directly killed by the blade, turning into a rain of blood. Missiles lock onto him. With Xing Feng's order, a pocket-sized missile launcher rose from the shoulders of a few super soldiers.
Swoosh swoosh.
The missile followed a strange path and flew towards Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was in mid-air and had nowhere to relay the missile. Seeing a missile flying towards him, he immediately took out his heaven-shocking bow and sun-shooting arrow. With a whoosh, a shooting sun arrow hit the missile. Flames rose into the air, but the shooting sun arrow was not destroyed. It only had its attack power reduced and flew to the side. Li Xiaotian, who had been watching coldly from the side, also had a full set of equipment. He quickly grabbed the sun-shooting arrow and could not hide the joy on his face. Back then, he had only managed to obtain a sun-shooting arrow from Tang Zheng's hands after racking his brains. Today, he had obtained another one. It was not in vain to cooperate with the dragon group and endure Xing Feng's bad temper. When Tang Zheng saw that a sun-shooting arrow had fallen into Li Xiaotian's hands, although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. Huang Xiang's method of dealing with the missile was even more efficient. He did not back down at all, and instead used his blade to deal with the missile. Bang! With an explosive sound, Huang Xiang was sent tumbling a few times by the explosion. His body was blasted open, and his clothes were tattered as fresh blood flowed out. However, he did not feel any pain at all. Instead, he roared like a madman, filled with anger.
Tang Zheng, today is the day you die. Let's see how you're going to escape.
Xing Feng looked down from above and roared complacently. Tang Zheng looked at the other party hatefully. They were fully prepared and purposely moved at such a high altitude, greatly limiting Tang Zheng's fighting strength. The speed at which they were falling was getting faster and faster, and they were getting closer and closer to the ground. What entered their eyes was a boundless blue sea. The reason they chose to make their move above the sea was to avoid attracting the attention of the people on the land. Although it was all water below them, the water was still fatal. Falling into the water at such a high speed, not to mention that Tang Zheng's chaotic Vajra spell had not reached large success, even if he had, falling into the water at such a high speed would still be enough to choke on.
This won't do. We're definitely going to die like this. We have to think of a way.
Tang Zheng was anxious, but Changzi was calm as his thoughts raced. However, Xing Feng obviously did not want to give the two of them the chance to think. Attacks came one after another. Whether it was the cold air bullets or the missiles, they all greeted the two of them with all their might. They wanted to counterattack, but the other party relied on their equipment and dodged far away, leaving Tang Zheng helpless. The smile on Xing Feng's face grew wider and wider, while Li Xiaotian was relatively calm. She had interacted with Tang Zheng for so many days, so she understood him better. Until the last moment, she could not predict what would happen, much less determine the outcome. Chapter 490. As they approached the surface of the sea, they could already see the reflection of the sun. Venerable Four Symbols, it's up to you now. Tang Zhang gave a loud cry as the Four Symbols Senior appeared out of thin air. Tang Zhang leaped up and climbed onto the Four Symbols Senior's shoulder before drilling into the Four Symbols Senior's chest. He hurriedly controlled the Venerable Four Symbols to catch the falling Huang Ziyang. At that moment, a missile hit the Venerable Four Symbols, causing sparks to erupt from its body. Many people cheered, but the cheers quickly turned into cries of surprise. Although the Venerable Four Symbols was hit by the missile, it was unharmed. Humph, I'll show you the power of the Venerable Four Symbols. With a thought from Tang Zhang, the Venerable Four Symbols waved its hand. Bang! A super soldier was sent flying by the fist and fell into the sea like a cannonball, causing a huge splash. Retreat, retreat quickly! Xing Feng knew how powerful the Venerable Four Symbols was. Seeing this, he hurriedly ordered. Everyone quickly retreated and fired at the Venerable Four Symbols. However, the Venerable Four Symbols was invulnerable and unharmed. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion sounded out as the Four Symbols Senior fell into the sea, causing huge waves to soar into the sky. Even though Tang Zhang was inside the Four Symbols Senior's body, he was still knocked dizzy by the huge impact. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured. Squeak squeak! Xiao Bai suddenly appeared in front of Tang Zhang out of thin air. Previously, because of the flight, Tang Zhang used an illusion to temporarily cut off Xiao Bai's connection with the outside world. The outside world could not see it, and it did not know what was happening outside. Due to the violent tremors, the illusion lost its effect and Whitey was revealed. The little guy stretched its neck and looked around with its big eyes, not knowing what had happened. Tang Zhang patted its head to comfort it, then turned his attention to the outside world. The Venerable Four Symbols was a huge creature and weighed a lot. Of course it could not swim. As soon as it entered the sea, it quickly sank. By the time the super soldiers reached the surface, the Venerable Four Symbols had completely sunk into the sea. Tang Zhang hid within the body of the Four Symbols Venerable and was completely isolated from the seawater outside. He was completely fine. Huang Ziyang was also lying on the shoulder of the Four Symbols Venerable without any abnormality. Huang Ziyang was Tian Chanzi's puppet. Although his appearance was still that of a human because of his cultivation, his body was completely different from that of an ordinary human. Therefore, even if he was in the sea, he would still be fine without breathing. Moreover, the pressure from the sea wouldn't harm his body for the time being. The sea had returned to its calm state. The Dragon Group's equipment could only fly in the air and not dive. So they could only watch as Tang Zhang disappeared into the sea. Xing Feng's face was ashen as he cursed. A bunch of useless things. There are so many of you, yet you can't even deal with the two of them. What are you waiting for? Take off your equipment and dive down to take a look. A few super soldiers jumped into the water to investigate, while the others stared at the surface of the sea. The smile on Li Xiaotian's face disappeared as well. He sighed faintly and said, "It's useless. Since he disappeared from our sight, it'll be difficult for us to find him again." Humph, don't tell me he'll just stay under the water and not come out? I don't believe he'll turn into a fish in the sea. Xing Feng said unwillingly. Li Xiaotian didn't comment and said, "This time I cooperated with you because I thought the Dragon Group strength was outstanding. Now it seems that my expectations were a bit too high." Xing Feng snorted and said, "Perhaps the Dragon Group strength is still weak now, but in the future, the Dragon Group won't lose to any of the three great organizations." Li Xiaotian shrugged and said, "Then I'll wait and see. But let me remind you that Tang Zheng isn't an ordinary person. He's already escaped from your hands 3 times. The next time you want to catch him, it'll be even more difficult. You'll have to find another way." "What do you mean?" "It's very simple to deal with a person. As long as you find his weak spot, you can make him surrender without resistance. He'll do whatever you want him to do." Li Xiaotian said with a smile, but his eyes were like a poisonous snake, causing others to tremble in fear. Xing Feng didn't feel any fear. On the contrary, his interest was piqued and he said, "I'd like to hear the details." Li Xiaotian was just about to speak when he saw a few people rushing out of the water. Then they fell from the sky and fiercely crashed into the water. "Attention!" Xing Feng only had time to warn before he saw a huge monster rushing out of the water. It jumped out of the water and with a sweep of its long arm, it directly attacked the super soldiers. On the shoulder of this huge monster were 2 fellows, one big and one small. The big fellow was Huang Xiang. His whole body was drenched as he raised the demon head blade with water droplets on it and slashed down. The small fellow was Xiao Bai. He opened his mouth and flames filled the sky. It was as if the sky had been lit up, and the super soldiers were immediately set on fire. Bang! 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 Bullets and missiles quickly greeted the four symbols venerable. However, the four symbols venerable's momentum had already been exhausted. He fell into the water and disappeared without a trace. The few super soldiers who were hit fell into the water one after another, losing their ability to fight. Xing Feng clenched his fist so hard that the veins on his forehead popped out. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Damn it!" He didn't escape but launched a counterattack instead. For such a huge monster to be able to counterattack in the sea, it's really strange. Li Xiaotian didn't say a word. He carefully observed the sea below and suddenly said, "This part of the sea is very shallow. That's why the four symbols venerable leaped out of the water with the help of a huge rebound force." Xing Feng was shocked and asked, "That means he can attack again?" "Yes." Li Xiaotian nodded. As if to prove her words, the four symbols venerable leaped out of the water with a loud sound and launched an attack on the other super soldiers. These super soldiers were completely wiped out again. Xing Feng was so angry that he cried out, "Are you all blind? Don't you know how to dodge? Hurry up and take to the air. Get out of his attack range." The remaining super soldiers all took to the air and looked down at the sea from a height of over 1,000 meters. Not long after, the four symbols venerable leaped out of the sea again. However, this time, because the enemy was too far away, he returned without any success. Seeing the four symbols venerable swagger into the sea, Xing Feng gritted his teeth and said, "You mentioned a weakness just now. What's Tang Zheng's weakness?" Li Xiaotian smiled mysteriously and said, "He's been an orphan since he was young. He's been relying on a grandfather who adopted him. This grandfather of his is his lifeblood. As long as you catch him, Tang Zheng will be at your mercy." Xing Feng was overjoyed. Why didn't he think of this? He had only thought of dealing with Tang Zheng himself and neglected other methods. This was a way to get things done once and for all. Moreover, catching an old man would be as easy as flipping his hand. It was really too easy. Li Xiaotian smiled as he looked at Xing Feng, who readily accepted the suggestion. His eyes narrowed into slits as he thought proudly, "Xing Feng, do you really think I'm giving you advice? Hee, you're really too naive." Li Xiaotian's gaze turned cold, but Xing Feng was immersed in joy and didn't notice. Tang Dahai is Tang Zheng's reverse scale. If you dare to touch him, Tang Zheng will fight you at all costs. At that time, I'll see how long your dragon group can last. The government wants to use the dragon group to check and balance our three major organizations. Their thinking is too simple. We can't directly interfere with the dragon group's matters, but we don't mind finding some trouble for you. If Xing Feng knew what she was thinking at this moment, he would definitely give her the title of two-faced woman. Her schemes were too deep, and the slightest bit of carelessness would cause him to fall into her trap. Xing Feng didn't know this, so he didn't realize that he had fallen into Li Xiaotian's trap. He couldn't wait to capture Tang Zheng and force him to hand over the life-continuing pill. No, not only the life-continuing pill. Xing Feng wanted all of his treasures. Retreat! With Xing Feng's order, he took the lead and flew towards land. Li Xiaotian deeply looked at the calm sea and muttered to herself, "He's not accompanying his family at home during the winter break. What is he doing in the southern sea?" She couldn't figure out the reason no matter how hard she racked her brains. She couldn't continue to guard here because it would be useless. With the protection of the four symbols venerables, Tang Zheng could completely dive under the sea. Her guess wasn't wrong. When Tang Zheng confirmed that the enemy had retreated, he didn't jump out of the water, but instead dived a few hundred meters under the sea. It was true that the four symbols venerables were huge creatures, but in the vast sea, they were insignificant. Diving under the sea wouldn't cause any big movements. The pressure of the several hundred meters under the sea was huge, but it didn't affect the four symbols venerables and Huang Xiang much. Another matter also shocked Tang Zheng. Xiao Bai's swimming ability was actually very good. It was as free as a small fish. Its four claws were constantly paddling the sea, and its speed wasn't slow either. Furthermore, it could also withstand the pressure of the several hundred meters under the sea. From time to time,
it would spit out a few small bubbles. It was very cute. The Dragon Palace was located very far from the coastline. Tang Zheng was still quite a distance away. He dived under the sea, and the sea was getting deeper and deeper. Gradually, it was over 1,000 meters under the sea. The four Symbols Venerables and Xiao Bai were still safe and sound, but Huang Xiang couldn't take it anymore. He kept spitting out bubbles, and his movements became stiff and slow. Although Huang Xiang's body was strong, the pressure at the bottom of the sea was too great. He couldn't take it anymore. This won't do. I still have to go to the surface. Tang Zheng didn't know how long he had dived for, nor did he know where he was. Therefore, he had no choice but to go to the surface. Bang! The four Symbols Venerables stomped on the seabed, and the seawater immediately turned turbid. Then, the four Symbols Venerables charged up like a cannonball. This was already the deep sea, and there were many large fish. Tang Zheng even saw himself flash past a whale. The whale was so frightened that it hurriedly swayed its tail to avoid the huge creature. The other small fish and shrimps were as if they were facing a great enemy. They were almost scared out of their wits. Just as he was about to burst out of the water, Tang Zheng put the four Symbols Venerables back into his sumaru pouch. Then, he surfaced with Huang Xiang and Xiao Bai. Chapter 491. There were no clouds in the sky, a pure white sailboat was floating in the vast sea, and a person was lying on the deck. Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang came out of the water and made a lot of noise. They immediately woke up the person lying on the deck sunbathing. She immediately stood up and looked at the strangers who suddenly appeared in surprise. She covered her cherry mouth in surprise. But she quickly reacted and waved to Tang Zheng. Then with a beautiful diving posture, she jumped directly from the deck into the sea and swam quickly towards Tang Zheng like a mermaid. Tang Zheng looked at this scene with his mouth agape. This was really beyond his expectations. When he saw the mermaid getting closer and closer, he also came back to his senses, but he did not act rashly. Instead, he looked at the mermaid who was getting closer and closer. Phew, the mermaid took a deep breath and finally stopped hitting the water and stopped in front of Tang Zheng. Ha! You didn't drown? She did not speak in Wuxia language, but in English. Fortunately, Tang Zheng's English is good and he understood. We didn't drown, Tang Zheng said. Then why are you in the sea? She asked with her big round eyes. Tang Zheng stared at the other party without blinking. The other party was indeed a famous mermaid. In fact, she was really beautiful. She was a Westerner, tall with deep eyes, especially her hair and skin that were wet by the sea, glowing with a crystal luster, and her big eyes seemed to be able to speak, blinking. More importantly, she was wearing bikinis. Her exquisite and graceful figure was revealed without a doubt. Every inch of her body was just right. Especially the surging waves on her chest, they were constantly swaying as they were hit by the waves, causing ripples in one's heart. Tang Zheng quickly calmed his mind and looked at the other party curiously, then glanced at the sailboat not far away. Although he didn't know much about sailboats, it seemed that this sailboat was also very valuable, which meant that the other party's identity was not ordinary. In addition, what made Tang Zheng like her even more was that she did not hesitate to jump into the water to rescue them. As a beauty, it was not easy to have this kind of courage and kindness. We are fishermen. We went out to sea to catch fish, but we were careless and our boat was destroyed by the waves. After that, we drifted on the sea. Fortunately, we met you. Otherwise, we would have been buried in the sea. Tang Zheng made up a story and said with great emotion. Surprisingly, the mermaid did not suspect anything. Instead, she said sympathetically, "Then you are really pitiful. Fortunately, I met you. This means that your bad luck has come to an end. Thank you for saving my life." Tang Zheng said gratefully. "Don't say too much. Let's get on the boat," the mermaid said. The few of them swam back to the boat. Tang Zheng glanced around and did not see anyone else. This mermaid was very bold. She was not afraid that they were bad people and directly picked them up on the boat. She was not vigilant at all. He did not know what she was doing drifting on the sea. The mermaid carefully looked at the two of them and muttered in her heart. These two did not seem like fishermen. However, she did not delve into it because her attention was quickly attracted by Xiao Bai. The little guy was standing on the deck and shaking off the water. He was pouting his little pink mouth and was quite cute.
The mermaid's eyes lit up and she cheered. Wow, what a cute little animal. Xiaobai looked up and pouted at her. He jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder and grabbed Tang Zheng's wet hair. He looked at the mermaid curiously. What kind of animal is this? How come I've never seen it before? She asked in surprise. Tang Zheng looked at her in surprise. When other people saw Xiaobai at first glance, they would treat it as an ordinary puppy. Only she did not classify Xiaobai as a puppy. He's called Xiaobai. He's my pet. Tang Zheng did not answer Xiaobai's type. The mermaid nodded but did not ask further. Because with her family's upbringing, it was very rude to ask further. How cute. Looking at your appearance, are you from an island nation? The mermaid asked. This was a common phenomenon. In the eyes of these Westerners, when they saw people with Eastern faces, they would first think of people from an island nation. They would not think of them as people of the great Wuxia. It had to be said that this was a great irony. We are from Wuxia. Tang Zheng corrected. The mermaid was startled and quickly apologized. I'm really sorry. It's okay. Wuxia is a country with a long history of civilization. I've always been looking forward to it. The mermaid said in the purest Wuxia language. Tang Zheng was stunned. Did he hear wrong? She actually spoke Wuxia language, and it was very standard. She was definitely a person who had received the most professional training. Looking at Tang Zheng's expression, the corners of her mouth rose slightly and said, I have a talent for languages, so I learned a few more. Tang Zheng sighed. Amazing. I haven't asked your name yet. You can call me N. What about you? My name is Tang Zheng. He's Huang Xiang. Nice to meet you. And smiled. The light of the sun in the sky seemed to be covered by her smile. Your fishing boat was destroyed by the waves. Where are you going now? Back to Wuxia? And asked. Where are you going? I'm going to the southernmost part of the ocean. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. The Dragon Palace was still further south. It was on the way, so he said, We're not going back home. I have friends fishing further south. We're going to meet them there. And said happily, Really? That's great. Then we can go together. That way we won't be lonely on the way. Tang Zheng couldn't help but laugh. This mermaid was too gullible. He casually made up a reason, and she actually believed it. It seemed that she was inexperienced and didn't have much social experience. This was for the best. Tang Zheng also didn't have to be careful. The two sides chatted for a while. Tang Zheng gradually understood that this mermaid had a strong sense of adventure. She was actually sailing around the world alone. Tang Zheng was flabbergasted. Her guts were simply too big. Not to mention encountering bad people, even if there were all kinds of big waves, it would be filled with unknown risks. Her family was actually willing to let her take this risk. In addition, she wasn't from the Western Empire as Tang Zheng thought. She came from a small country on the European continent with a long history. Sweden. The largest country on the European continent was the Atlantic Empire, but there were other scattered small countries, and Sweden was one of them. Sweden had a long history and still retained the royal system. Although it was a small country, its economy was quite extraordinary, and kept asking about Huaxia's local conditions and customs. She seemed to be very interested in Wuxia. In addition, the knowledge revealed in her words made Tang Zheng secretly admire her. From astronomy to geography, even literature, art, history and philosophy, she was quite accomplished in all of them. Moreover, she was very familiar with a lot of uncommon knowledge, many of which were things that Tang Zheng had never heard of before, causing him to be flabbergasted and suddenly enlightened. Her family must be either rich or noble, otherwise it would be impossible for them to nurture such an outstanding talent. Moreover, the aura she exudes is the true aura of a noble. Her every move seems casual, but in reality, it has a deep meaning. Tang Zheng muttered in his heart, and was completely different from the nouveau riche second generation in the country. Everything she showed made Tang Zheng look at her in a new light, and arranged cabins for the two of them and then quietly sailed the sailboat. Tang Zheng had nothing to do, so he sat on the deck and watched the clouds and the sea scenery. After a day of sailing, they came to a deeper part of the ocean. There were no clouds for thousands of miles, and the wind was calm. It was as if they were gliding on a mirror, making them feel relaxed and happy. Tang Zheng experienced the scenery of the ocean and was intoxicated by it. Annie would occasionally exchange a few words with him and introduce knowledge of the ocean to him, which greatly benefited him.
Suddenly, 3 speedboats appeared on the surface of the sea and quickly sailed toward the sailboat.
Why are there these small speedboats in the middle of the sea?
What are they doing? Tang Zheng muttered in his heart, and obviously also noticed the other party. She walked out of the cockpit and stood on the deck to look.
Who are they?
Tang Zheng asked curiously, and shook her head.
I don't know.
I've never encountered such a situation before. As they spoke, the speedboats arrived in front of the sailboat and slowed down. The speedboat surrounded the sailboat from front to back. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. He clearly saw the people on the speedboats. They didn't come with good intentions. These people were all carrying guns, ammunition, and other weapons.
And walked to the side of the boat and looked at the other party.
What do you want?
She asked.
Haha, we're going to be rich this time.
This lady is obviously not an ordinary person.
You'll definitely get a lot of ransom money. A thin man with buck teeth laughed and spoke in English. Tang Zheng and frowned at the same time,
and angrily said, Who are you people?
Pirates, the man with buck teeth said proudly. Tang Zheng's head thumped. The outside world had always said that the sea at the southern end of the ocean wasn't peaceful. There were many pirates, big and small, who specialized in robbery and kidnapping. Tang Zheng had always lived on the mainland and didn't have a direct impression of these things. It was really too much of a coincidence to be able to meet them this time. He wasn't afraid. Instead, he was eager to give it a try. He looked at the pirates with interest. There were more than 10 pirates in total. Each of them was carrying a rifle or a pistol. One of them even had a rocket launcher on his shoulder. Their firepower wasn't weak and was more than enough to deal with ordinary people. No wonder they were able to succeed so many times. And didn't panic when she heard the other party's identity. Instead, she was calm and said righteously, being a pirate is against the law. Repent and be saved. Turning over a new leaf is the right path.
Repent and be saved?
Turning over a new leaf?
Ha ha.
The pirate laughed wildly as if he had heard the funniest joke. Suddenly the buckteeth's smile disappeared, and he said with a murderous look, Arrest them all for me. This time we've kidnapped a big one. After this one is done, we can rest for a while. Chapter 492. It was Tang Zheng's first time seeing pirates, so he wasn't afraid. Instead, he was a little curious. Looking at Anne's attitude, he felt that she was a little silly and cute. It was a waste of saliva to talk with these useless people. The pirates were holding rifles, and the muzzles were waving around. It was obvious that they were a motley crew. Tang Zheng wasn't even interested in making a move. Instead, he wanted to see what the other party was going to do.
This person is scared silly.
Haha, useless man.
The pirate smirked, and didn't expect the 2 fishermen to resist.
Seeing the pirate pouncing towards her, she reached her hand to her thigh and pulled out a pocket pistol.
She pointed it at the pirate and shouted, Don't move or I'll shoot.
Haha, you want to scare us with a toy gun?
The pirate wasn't afraid at all. Instead, the buck-toothed pirate swaggered towards Anne.
I'm really going to shoot.
Anne's body trembled. Bang!
The gunshot shocked everyone. The pirate almost pulled the trigger and shot at them, but he restrained himself in the end. This was because Annie's shot did not hit anyone, and the bullet was thousands of miles off target.
Ha ha ha!
Buck-toothed laughed wildly. You dare to shoot with this kind of marksmanship? Brother will teach you how to play with a gun.
Sent.
Buck-toothed grabbed the pistol and threw it into the sea.
He pointed the rifle muzzle at Anne and shouted angrily, See, this is a gun.
A man's gun. Hee hee, I'll let you see a man's other, more powerful gun in a moment. When the other pirates heard this, they laughed even more unscrupulously. Their eyes kept sizing up Anne. Anne's heart trembled. She quickly hugged her chest, but it didn't have the slightest power. Instead, it looked delicate and pitiful, causing ripples in people's hearts.
Tie them up.
Several pirates hurriedly tied the 3 people up with ropes. Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang didn't resist because Tang Zheng had a new idea. These pirates weren't good people. They had burned, killed, and plundered countless times. Since he had encountered them today, it was their bad luck.
If he could get rid of these guys while he was at it, he would be doing a good deed. Pirates were a group of people, and it was impossible for there to be only a few of them. Therefore, Tang Zhang was prepared to pretend to be a hostage and infiltrate the pirates' base, then remove this malignant tumor in one fell swoop.
There's a puppy here. We'll have dog meat tonight, Buckteeth shouted excitedly when he saw Xiao Bai. Capture him.
Xiao Bai opened his mouth to protest but was stopped by Tang Zheng's gaze. However, when he saw the pirate approaching with a knife, Xiao Bai did not sit still. He jumped into the sea and disappeared.
Sigh, what bad luck.
That little bastard is actually so smart.
He escaped.
Jumping into this boundless sea means certain death, so it would be better to make us a side dish, Buckteeth said regretfully. Tang Zhang was not worried about Xiao Bai, because he saw a white figure falling into the ship from afar.
This ship is high-grade goods.
We really got a big fish this time, the pirate said excitedly as he looked around and knocked on the side of the ship. This ship is yours, right, little girl?
Buckteeth asked Anne.
It's mine.
Then who are they?
Looking at them, it's obvious they're not with you. Their clothes are also shabby, so it's obvious they don't have much money. It's better to just push them into the sea, Buckteeth said fiercely. Stop there, my friends. If you dare to touch them, don't think of getting a penny, and shouted to stop him. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. This mermaid is quite loyal.
Hee hee, so you must be very rich. How much can you pay to redeem your lives?
Buckteeth licked his lips and asked expectantly. How much do you want?
And raised her head and asked.
When the pirates heard this, their eyes lit up. When Tang Zheng saw this, he sighed inwardly. This mermaid really didn't have much social experience. Wouldn't it seem like he was a big piece of fat meat if she said that? These pirates wouldn't let her go so easily, and would even ask for an exorbitant price. 50 million. Buckteeth stretched out a hand and said excitedly and nervously. This price tag was already very high because it was equivalent to $300 million in Wuxia dollars. This was truly an exorbitant price tag.
No problem.
Unexpectedly, and agreed without even blinking. Buckteeth's expression clearly became more excited. He thought to himself that the price he offered was too low for the other party to agree so readily. However, he didn't immediately increase the price. The people were in his hands, so it wouldn't be too late to increase the price after the 50 million arrived. Tang Zheng sighed inwardly. This was going to be troublesome. If she hadn't met him, he was afraid this mermaid would really be out of luck. The sailboat and speedboat rode the wind and broke through the waves. After a long time, they finally saw a small island. Looking from afar, the island was filled with rugged rocks and looked quite imposing. There's actually such a treasure land in the middle of the sea. These pirates really picked up a treasure. Tang Zheng only took a glance from afar and discovered that this was a place that was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The entrance to the island was a narrow waterway that was difficult for large ships to pass through. Only speedboats and small boats could pass through. Moreover, this waterway was flanked on both sides by sheer cliffs. Tang Zheng also saw scattered figures on the cliffs, who were obviously pirates. The defense is tight. No wonder these pirates are so arrogant. However, technology is so advanced now, and these pirates are so rampant. Aren't they afraid of being attacked by various countries? Tang Zheng muttered in his mind. Although pirates were powerful, they were still like clay chickens and pottery dogs when faced with ordinary people, real state machinery, and an attack from the military. They couldn't withstand a single blow. Tang Zheng couldn't figure it out, so he decided to wait and see. Moreover, this place was already very close to the Dragon Palace, so he didn't mind staying for a few more days. Haha, Buckteeth, the Sea King will definitely be very happy with such a big harvest this time. A pirate shouted excitedly when he saw Buckteeth return with 3 hostage, especially the radiant Anne. Buckteeth's face flushed red as he chuckled. This is my good luck. Let me tell you, this little girl is willing to pay 50 million for safety. 50 million. The other pirates opened their mouths wide. This was really a big deal, and they all stared at Anne like a tiger eyeing its prey. And wasn't afraid at all. She raised her head like a proud princess and looked at the pirates with disdain. She muttered to herself, a group of pathetic people who let their hearts fall into depravity because of money. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. This mermaid was not only stupid because of money, but she was also a bit of a clean freak. Let's go and see the Sea King.
Buckteeth kicked Tang Zheng's leg and cursed. Tang Zheng's face flashed with anger. Buckteeth, you just wait. You dare to kick me? I'll make you suffer later.
In the center of the island, hidden among many tropical plants, a stone building was particularly eye-catching.
Tang Zheng saw it from afar.
This is the residence of the Sea King.
This Sea King is the leader of this group of pirates. Tang Zheng pondered.
Creak. Two dark pirates pulled open a huge stone door, and Buckteeth led the three of them in. The floor was paved with stone slabs, and the air was filled with the smell of the salty sea breeze. The light was somewhat dim. A big man sat boldly on a huge throne. This big man had a full beard and was muscular. He was bare-chested and only wore a pair of shorts on his lower body. His skin was dark, and his eyes were bright and full of expression. Two Western beauties sat on the armrests on both sides of the throne. Only a few pieces of gauze covered their bodies, so they were almost naked. In any case, Tang Zheng could clearly see their body parts under the gauze. However, these two Western beauties had dull expressions, as if they were walking corpses without souls.
Buckteeth, how was the harvest this time?
The Sea King asked. Buckteeth knelt before the Sea King and said respectfully, Sea King, the harvest this time was quite bountiful. We caught a big hostage, and this woman agreed to pay 50 million to redeem herself. The Sea King's gaze turned and fixed on Anne. He couldn't hide his pleasant surprise and said, Haha, what a stunning beauty! After saying that, he impatiently stood up and casually threw the two beauties beside him to the ground.
Then he strode toward Anne
and subconsciously took a step back and shouted, What are you doing? The Sea King grabbed Anne into his arms and said with an evil smile, I've never seen such a stunning beauty before.
Buckteeth, you've done a great service this time.
Buckteeth was unable to restrain his joy.
Get lost.
If you dare touch me, you won't get a single cent, and loudly shouted to stop him. The Sea King's hand subconsciously stopped and released Anne. He laughed mischievously and said, Don't worry, I'm a very trustworthy businessman. As long as you give me the money, I definitely won't touch you. And heaved a sigh of relief, and some color returned to her pale cheeks.
Tang Zheng secretly shook his head.
This silly girl actually believed this pirate leader. If she could believe his words, then pigs could fly. The Sea King's gaze roamed over Annie's body as he thought to himself, Beauty, when your money arrives, I'll slowly enjoy you. Getting both the person and the money at the same time, that's the style of the Sea King, haha.
Make the call and transfer the money. The Sea King handed a satellite phone to Anne. Annie hurriedly dialed the number, and the call went through immediately.
However, the Sea King snatched the phone away and shouted into the phone, Your relative is in our hands. Prepare to transfer 50 million to us, or I will immediately throw him into the sea to feed the sharks.
Who are you? Why do you have this phone? A dignified man's voice came from the satellite phone. Beauty, what's your name? He actually doesn't believe me, the Sea King asked.
Anne. And is in our hands.
Do you hear me clearly now?
The Sea King said arrogantly. The other party's breathing clearly paused, and then he said in a deep voice, Let me talk to Anne.
We have always complied with our customers' requests. We can satisfy your request.
The Sea King handed the phone to Anne's mouth.
Father, and called out. Anne, don't worry. We'll definitely get you out.
The Sea King immediately took the phone back and said, Now you know that I didn't lie to you. Transfer the money to this account immediately. If you don't receive the money within an hour, you won't be able to see your precious daughter again. It's too difficult to gather 50 million in an hour.
6 hours.
If I don't see the money in 3 hours, you can just wait to collect the corpse.
Chapter 493.
The Sea King hung up the phone and didn't immediately make a move on Anne. After all, he hadn't received the ransom yet, so he wasn't in a hurry. Beauty, you'd better pray that your family will pay as promised. Otherwise, I won't be able to guarantee anything. The Sea King grinned and laughed evilly, and raised her head arrogantly. Although she had become a captive, she didn't put the other party in her eyes at all. She said proudly, My family will definitely pay.
Tang Zheng secretly shook his head.
This Anne's background wasn't small, but it was obvious that this group of pirates didn't intend to let her go. Even if her family wasn't ordinary, It was impossible to save her in this vast sea. This heavy responsibility could only fall into his hands. However, Tang Zheng wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He wanted to play a monkey and see what kind of tricks this group of pirates had up their sleeves. Take them down and lock them up. The Sea King resisted the desire in his heart and waved his hand, deciding that what he didn't see wouldn't bother him. Buckteeth hurriedly pushed the three people away with a malicious smile and walked toward the back mountain of the island. After a while, they stopped in front of a cave. Two pirates were guarding the entrance with guns. When they saw Buckteeth walking over, they hurriedly bowed and greeted him. It seemed that Buckteeth's position among the pirates wasn't low. He was a leader. "Go in," Buckteeth said and pushed Tang Zheng with all his might. They walked into the cave, which was even more humid and had a rancid smell, and hurriedly covered her nose, frowned and cried out, "Why is it so smelly?"
"Haha, you're hostages. Do you still want to be picky?
"Hurry up and go," Buckteeth said sarcastically. Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang didn't care, but looked pained. It was as if she was suffering more than being killed. Ah, she really is a delicate young lady from a rich family. Instead of paying attention to the danger, she's so concerned about these minor details. Tang Zheng shook his head. He really couldn't understand the mermaid's brain circuit. Bang! The three people were locked in the outermost cell. The cell door, which was made of wooden sticks as thick as an arm, was tightly shut.
"Let's wait patiently. We'll see in 3 hours. Hee hee."
Buckteeth lingered on Anne's body as if he wanted to see through her clothes. Seeing Buckteeth swagger in, and gradually adapted to the smell and slowly let go of him. Seeing that Tang Zheng didn't say a word, she thought he was scared and hurriedly comforted him.
"Don't worry.
When my family gives them the money, they'll let us go.
We'll be safe."
Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't know where her confidence came from.
Didn't she know that some people could lie?
"Thank you," Tang Zheng said casually. "Humph. These pirates are too abominable. They must have done a lot of bad things. Once we leave, I'll definitely send people to capture them all." Anne bit her lips and spoke ruthlessly. Before Tang Zheng could respond, a soft snicker rang out. Tang Zheng and Anne were startled and looked at each other suspiciously. Anne quickly asked, "Who's laughing?" "I'm laughing at your shameless boasting and overestimating yourselves." The voice rang out again. Tang Zheng looked in the direction of the voice and saw that it came from a cell diagonally across from them. But the light in the other cell was dim, and he couldn't see the scene inside.
"Why do you say I'm shameless boasting? I'm not lying."
And argued. "You're just a woman, yet you dare to talk nonsense about capturing this group of pirates.
If this isn't shameless boasting, what is it?"
The other person retorted. Anne's face gradually turned red as she asked, "Who are you? Why are you speaking for the pirates and boosting their morale while diminishing your own?" "I wanted to capture the pirates, but I didn't expect to become a prisoner," the person said self-deprecatingly, full of disappointment. "Ah, so you're an enemy of the pirates.
Then who are you?" "International Peacekeeping Force."
The man hesitated for a moment and said. Tang Zheng and Anne were stunned for a moment.
Peacekeeping Force?
They often heard this word. This kind of force mostly appeared in various international conflicts or other dangerous places. How could it appear in this pirate's lair? As if understanding the doubts of the two, the other person said, "The United Nations has been paying attention to this group of pirates for a long time. This time, they sent a large number of elites to capture them in one fell swoop." He stopped and didn't continue. Obviously, this operation was a complete failure, so he was embarrassed to speak. Thinking about it, it was also very reasonable. Even the peacekeeping force had failed, but Anne said that she wanted to capture all the pirates. This was indeed a bit of shameless boasting. Tang Zheng didn't expect this group of pirates to be so notorious that even the peacekeeping force was alarmed. This made him even more determined to get rid of this group of pirates. However, he was also very curious. The combat power of the peacekeeping force should be more than a level higher than this group of motley crew. Why did they mobilize so many people to crusade against them fail? Obviously, and also had this question in her heart, so she asked directly. The other person was silent for a moment, sighed, and said dejectedly, "Originally, we were well prepared. Everyone was very confident in the air and sea attack. But I don't know why, in the blink of an eye, all our mechanical equipment failed. The plane crashed, the ship broke down, and we became live targets. We were shot down and sunk. Recalling that scene, he still had some lingering fear in his heart, because all of this had far exceeded his imagination.
Everything had happened too quickly, and all of his comrades had been sacrificed. In the end, he was the only one left in the army of hundreds. He was prepared to give himself a glory bomb, but he didn't have time and was directly captured. Anne's eyes widened in disbelief. As if listening to a book, she subconsciously shook her head and said, "You're making up a story."
Hee. The other person laughed self-deprecatingly.
"I also hope that all of this is a story I made up, so that my comrades can come back to life." Anne looked sad and didn't say more. It seemed that the other person wasn't making up a story, but what he said was a fantasy. She definitely wouldn't believe it. But when Tang Zheng heard this, his pupils involuntarily shrank. He asked, "Could it be that the pirates have some kind of high-tech weapon?"
"Impossible." The other person denied it immediately.
"There is no such high-tech weapon in this world because this kind of weapon is too heaven-defying. It's impossible for it to exist." Tang Zheng thought about it and found that it was true.
If there really was a high-tech weapon that could stop all the planes and warships, then the country with such a weapon would definitely become the master of this world.
It was like he had the sharpest spear and the strongest shield. He was the only one who could attack others. If the enemy wanted to deal with him, it was simply a fool's dream. Tang Zheng muttered in his heart. If this wasn't a high-tech weapon, then what could it be? He couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. The other person seemed to be tired of talking. No matter how Tang Zheng and asked, he didn't say anything. The cave fell into a dead silence. Although Anne's face turned a little pale, she still comforted Tang Zheng softly. "You have to have confidence. We will definitely regain our freedom." Tang Zheng smiled. "I have confidence." Annie smiled, thinking that it was her consolation that worked. She began to chat with Tang Zheng, not feeling the slightest bit of self-consciousness as a captive. After a long time, Buckteeth strode in with a few pirates and fiercely grabbed the person in the cell. Tang Zheng and finally saw the other person clearly. He was a tall white man with injuries on his body. He wasn't in good spirits, but there was a trace of determination and unyielding between his brows. "What are you doing?"
And immediately questioned loudly when she saw the situation.
"Haha, beauty, you really have a merciful heart. You can't even protect yourself, but you still have the leisure to care about others," Buckteeth said with a smirk. "Hurry up and let him go. Look at how injured he is. Don't tell me you still won't let him go? Do you still have any humanity?" Anne's question was powerful and awe-inspiring. "We're freeing him, and we're giving him a final performance in front of a global audience. After today, he's going to be the most famous star in the world. We're helping him, you know?" Buckteeth argued irrationally, and froze for a moment and didn't immediately understand the meaning of the other party's words. However, Tang Zheng immediately understood. The pirates were going to broadcast the killing of the peacekeeping soldier live worldwide. This kind of thing was very proficient in using by various terrorist organizations. This was to increase the deterrence and make everyone afraid of them.
There was no doubt that a global broadcast of killing a peacekeeping soldier was more powerful and could achieve better results than killing an ordinary person.
This group of pirates is no different from a terrorist organization. They have no humanity at all. Tang Zheng silently criticized. This kind of live broadcast was not only a nightmare for ordinary people, but also for the families of the killed. How cruel was it? The peacekeeping soldier also understood what fate was waiting for him. A trace of pain flashed across his face as he proudly said, "What's so terrible about death? When I carried out this mission, I already disregarded life and death. I believe that in the future, what awaits you will be a double trial of morality and law. In the end your end will come." Buckteeth flew into a rage and kicked the other party over. He cursed. "You want to judge us? Dream on. But today is your end. You've already said a few words."
After saying that, he waved his hand and several pirates immediately dragged the captive out like a dead dog.
"Stop, you're not allowed to leave. I won't allow you to kill anyone."
And anxiously stomped her feet and shouted to stop them.
"I'll call you the Sea King. I want to tell him that you must let this person go, or else you won't get the ransom." And really threw caution to the wind and didn't even care about her own safety. When Buckteeth heard about money,
He immediately stopped and glared angrily at Anne.
What did you say? If you kill him, you won't get the ransom.
Chapter 494. The cell door opened, and Buckteeth fiercely escorted Anne out. Seeing this, Tang Zheng hurriedly said, "We also want to watch."
Hee, someone actually volunteered to watch the killing. Interesting.
Buckteeth looked at Tang Zheng in surprise.
Tang Zheng pretended to be timid and smiled. I want to broaden my horizons.
Buckteeth pondered.
Since you're so anxious, I'll kill that peacekeeper later and make you famous. I'll also broadcast it to the world.
That way, it'll be even more shocking.
Okay, as you wish.
They were escorted out of the cave. And frowned and glared at Tang Zheng. She scolded him in a low voice. "Why did you get involved?
It's very dangerous." A global broadcast? I've never seen it before.
It's broadening my horizons, Tang Zheng said with a smile. Anne's frown deepened. She looked at him speechlessly and warned, "Don't talk nonsense later. I must make them give up on such inhumane behavior."
Tang Zheng rolled his eyes.
"Since you already know they're inhumane, why are you still trying to persuade him?
Isn't that playing the lute to a cow?"
They were escorted to the Sea King. The Sea King's eyes seemed to sink into Anne's body. He strode over and said, "Miss Anne, your ransom hasn't been paid yet."
"It's been transferred. It looks like your family won't pay."
Anne shook her head firmly. "That's impossible.
It's not time yet." There's only a few minutes left.
However, I don't mind waiting a few more minutes to deal with this annoying guy first." The Sea King shrugged and locked his eyes on his target.
"Bezer, you're really a lucky guy.
Today, I'll make you the focus of the world's attention," the Sea King said maliciously. Bezer was the name of this peacekeeper. Hearing this, he wasn't afraid at all and loudly rebuked. "Sea King, you've committed all kinds of crimes.
Even the heavens won't obey you. The international community won't let you off.
The more arrogant you are now, the faster you'll perish."
Is that so? Why was your army annihilated? Let me tell you, no matter how many troops you send, I can make sure that none of you return.
The Sea King was very confident.
Arrogant. Bezer spat. He didn't believe it. Tang Zheng did not really believe that the Sea King had the ability to do so.
After all, this group of pirates could not be compared to a regular army, especially a peacekeeping force that had gathered many elites. He did not know where the Sea King's confidence came from. The cameras were already set up and connected to the internet.
The global live broadcast began.
The Sea King swaggered back to his throne and faced the camera.
He did not cover his face like the other terrorist organizations.
It was as if he was not afraid of exposing his appearance. "Viewers from all over the world today, I, the Sea King, will bring you a feast of blood and lives.
I will show you who the real king of the sea is."
The Sea King's opening was simple and straightforward, full of confidence. He hooted, "All of you listen to me. From today onwards, anyone who doesn't pay taxes to me will end up like him." With that, the Sea King took the broadsword and pointed it at Bezer's neck. At this moment, the entire world's audience held their breaths.
Bezer's expression didn't change.
He shouted righteously, "Sea King, you're crazy. What awaits you is the trial of the entire world."
"Humph. I'll judge you first today.
I, the Sea King, pronounce you, Bezer, to be executed immediately." "Stop!" and rushed over and pushed the Sea King away. She stood in front of Bezer, her face flushed red.
"I won't allow you to hurt him. This is a crime. Do you know that?" Wow, a beauty actually rushed out. "She's so beautiful. Is she an actress?" I know. This must be a show."
The tense nerves of the audience relaxed and they started to tease.
"Isn't this princess and of the Swedish royal family?"
Suddenly, an audience member commented.
"Princess, is this a joke?"
"Yeah,
how could a princess be in a movie? This must be a joke." The audience didn't believe it. The audience member immediately posted a link to a web page. Out of curiosity, everyone clicked on it. It was a photo of the Swedish royal family attending an event.
Anne's photo was among them. She was even described as the most beautiful princess of the Swedish royal family in the past 100 years.
Wow, it's really Princess Anne. Could this video be a joke? The Sea King actually captured Princess Anne too. Shocking news. This is too explosive. One by one, exclamation marks appeared in the minds of the audience. At the same time, the world's major news media picked up the news and immediately reported on this incident that was originally thought to be a farce. The world's major news outlets immediately cut to the live video. This time, it wasn't only on the internet, but also on TV. The incident had escalated. The Sea King didn't expect this turn of events. He didn't rush to capture Anne. Instead, he stretched his neck and his eyes scanned Anne's body.
Hee, I've caught a big fish this time. The goddess of luck is so good to me. Haha, so Baser is just a small shrimp. This beauty is the real deal. The Sea King suddenly rushed to Anne's side and grabbed her lotus-like arm. He smiled maliciously and said, "So it's your highness. It's my great honor to be here on Sea King Island today." As he spoke, he bent over and made a gentlemanly gesture, but it was neither fish nor fowl. He didn't look like a gentleman at all, and frowned in disgust. Tang Zheng didn't expect to meet the princess of a country. No wonder she had such a strong aura and was so confident. This is getting more and more interesting. Since her identity is so special, it seems that she doesn't need my help. If a country's princess was captured, the other party would have taken action long ago. Perhaps the rescue team would have arrived soon. Of course, there was no need for Tang Zheng to be the hero and save the beauty. Moreover, the Sea King knew Anne's identity and wouldn't easily make a move against her. This was because he wasn't targeting a person or a family, but an entire country. Other than those anti-human and anti-social terrorists, even a master cultivator like Tang Zheng wouldn't dare to make an enemy of a country. However, a princess of a country sailing around the world by herself. Her courage isn't ordinary. She has a very adventurous spirit. Tang Zheng couldn't help but look at Anne. This princess was really different from the rest. She didn't take the usual path. No wonder your family was willing to pay the 50 million ransom. It's because my price was too low. This price definitely doesn't match the princess's identity, the Sea King said greedily. Then what do you want? And asked. Seeing the contempt in Anne's eyes, the Sea King became angry. He rolled his eyes and said with a smirk, "Since the price is too low, I'll use other things to make up for it." As he spoke, he pinched Anne's chin. Her fair skin immediately flushed red. She angrily said, "Let go of me." Chapter 495. As soon as he said that, it was truly shocking. The audience all over the world was stunned and their jaws almost dropped to the ground. However, looking at the crazed look in the Sea King's eyes, it was obvious that he was not joking. He was really going to do it. Crazy. This was absolute madness. The Sea King was actually going to broadcast to the world what he and Princess Anne were doing. This would undoubtedly become the most explosive news on television and the internet. The dignity of the Swedish royal family would be fatally challenged. This was not a humiliation for a single person, but for an entire country. The audience was boiling, and many people were even directly angry. Princess Anne was so beautiful that it was blasphemous to look at her for an extra second. However, the Sea King was actually going to do it in front of the entire world. He was simply insane and inhumane. Of course, there was no lack of busybodies running around to spread the news and call their friends to watch this shocking farce. The audience's comments below the live broadcast were already boiling. Millions of comments flooded the internet like a flood. As the person involved, Anne's mind went blank for a moment. She thought that she had misheard. From the moment she was born, she was destined to be extraordinary. Everyone adored and respected her. No one dared to be so rude to her. She was really angry. Since young, she had been educated by the royal family and rarely got angry. She was also good at hiding her temper. However, at this moment she finally exploded. She gritted her teeth and said, "Shameless." These two words were extremely harsh to her. In her education, there was no such thing as a shrew swearing on the streets. This was the limit of what she could think of. However, to the Sea King, this was like scratching an itch through his boot. It was not lethal at all. Instead,
It aroused his interest, and he chuckled. In a moment, I'll let you know who's the real shameless one. I'll let you experience what pleasure is in front of the entire world. I'll make you submit to me. The Sea King was extremely excited. Every cell in his body was cheering. He had not decided to do this on a whim. He had thought it through carefully. He was not afraid of Sweden's revenge at all. Moreover, the reputation of kidnapping a princess and sleeping with a princess could not be compared at all. As long as he slept with the princess, his reputation would become the #1 man in the world. Those celebrities were not even worthy of carrying his shoes. This was the effect he wanted. He wanted people all over the world to know him, fear him, and intimidate them so that they would not dare to go against his decision. Hearing such shameless words, Anne was furious. Her face revealed a determined expression as she said, "Even if I die, I won't let you have your way." "Hee, you're in my hands. You can't die even if you want to." The Sea King grabbed Anne's arm and put his head in front of her face as he sneered. Anne wanted to cry but had no tears. This time, she really couldn't even die. Was she really going to be forced to do that? She couldn't imagine that scene. Tang Zhang had been watching the Sea King's performance with great interest, but he was almost stunned by the Sea King's actions. He was not an ordinary person. He was much bolder than Tang Zheng. He could not help but feel ashamed of his inferiority. Of course, the anger in his heart burned even more. The Sea King no longer had any humanity. Such a person was a scourge in the world. Princess Anne, the audience is still waiting. Let's begin. The Sea King licked his lips and puckered his lips as he bit Anne's face. Damn it, this Sea King is a beast. He actually dared to defile the honorable princess. Yes, he's a scumbag. Sigh, if only I could get intimate with the princess. The audience was in an uproar as more and more comments were left. Seeing this, Tang Zheng immediately prepared to save the damsel in distress. However, before he could do anything, the ground suddenly trembled. Many of the furniture swayed, and the camera tripod tilted and fell to the ground. Ah, what's going on? Yeah, why did the video only capture the lower half of the body? Where's Princess Anne? The camera fell to the ground, and the scene was a mess. The audience began to shout. However, the scene was even more chaotic. Before the Sea King could bite Anne's cheek, his feet were shaken and he almost fell. The other pirates were in a complete mess as they cursed incessantly. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment. Could it be an earthquake? Earthquakes often occurred in the sea, and they were even more terrifying than those on land. However, the Sea King wasn't too alarmed. He quickly calmed down and angrily said, "Someone attacked my Sea King's saber. Humph, they're courting death. I'll deal with them first before continuing this show. Buckteeth, keep an eye on them." Then the Sea King strode out, and the other pirates followed him. Buckteeth held his rifle and aimed it at the few of them. He smiled maliciously and said, "Don't worry, everyone. The show will continue in a bit, and will definitely feast everyone's eyes." As he spoke, he licked his lips and thought to himself, "When the Sea King is done playing with Princess Anne, I wonder if I can enjoy her as well. This is really a blessing that I've cultivated in my previous life." Princess Anne felt as if she had just walked through the gates of hell. She heaved a huge sigh of relief and kept patting her chest. Her thin clothes billowed and were particularly eye-catching. Tang Zheng had originally been prepared to attack, but something unexpected happened and he was distracted. He stretched his neck and looked outside, but he couldn't see anything specific. Princess Anne and Baser also looked up at the same time. Their expressions were quite anxious, and they guessed that if it wasn't an earthquake, then it was possible that the rescue team had arrived. Buckteeth saw their expressions and curled his lips in disdain. "Don't get your hopes up. These people who came to save you will never return. They're no match for the Sea King." And retorted, "You're boasting shamelessly." Buckteeth said, "If you don't believe me, you can ask this Baser how he was captured. His entire army was wiped out, and that's proof. The Sea King is the king of the ocean. As long as it's on this island, no one is his match." Buckteeth had great confidence in the Sea King. Baser frowned and said, "Don't be arrogant. You kidnapped Princess Anne this time. Not only the peacekeeping force, but even the Swedish royal family won't let you go. This time, there will definitely be a large army pressing on the border. Your end is here. We'll see in a moment.
Buckteeth's confidence didn't waver in the slightest.
Tang Zheng looked at Buckteeth thoughtfully.
For a desperado to trust another person so much, it could only mean one thing. The Sea King was really powerful. But what made Tang Zheng suspicious was that the Sea King wasn't a martial artist, and he definitely wasn't a cultivator. This made Tang Zheng puzzled as to why the other party had such strong confidence.
Where did this confidence come from?
Boom, boom, boom. Loud noises came from outside, and battle cries rose and fell one after another. Bazer's face lit up and he whispered, "They're fighting."
The pirates are finished this time. Princess Anne also showed a look of joy. But Buckteeth was still calm in the face of this change.
Instead, his shifty eyes darted around Anne's body.
Tang Zheng also didn't act rashly.
If the pirates were really finished, then he wouldn't make a move to avoid exposing his skills and causing unnecessary trouble.
At this moment, the internet was in an uproar.
They didn't know what had happened, but the faint loud noises seemed to indicate something.
Many people guessed that the rescue force had arrived.
A good show had come to an end before it had even begun, which made many busybodies feel rather regretful. At the highest point of Sea King Island, the Sea King stood there majestically with a group of pirates, looking down at the approaching warships. The strong vibration just now had been caused by the shells fired from the warships, but the pirates were safe and sound. Moreover, a faint curtain of light appeared above them, which wasn't obvious under the strong sunlight. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Another series of cannonballs struck the light screen and exploded one after another.
Sea King Island remained unscathed.
This curtain of light was like a huge protective cover covering Sea King Island, ensuring its safety and making it impossible for foreign objects to break through. The Sea King looked at the curtain of light confidently with a smile on his face.
What peacekeepers and government troops?
They're all a piece of cake in front of me, the Sea King. The other pirates echoed. The Sea King unifies the sea and is the true king. After this, let's see who dares to disobey your orders in the future.
The Sea King nodded with satisfaction.
Sea King, the planes are here.
A pirate pointed at several planes whistling in the distance.
Then I'll call these planes to take a bath in the sea.
The Sea King took out a colorful conch, aimed his lips at it, and blew.
Woo, a melodious sound rang out and drifted into the distance. The other pirates clenched their fists and revealed excited expressions.
Rumble. Suddenly, the sea boiled and set off huge waves. At the same time, the planes and warships stopped.
The planes fell from the sky and fell straight into the sea, while the warships quietly stopped in the sea, unable to move.
Whoosh!
A wave soared into the sky and hit the warships directly. The warships immediately cracked, and seawater poured in. The warships quickly sank into the sea. A total of 2 warships were almost instantly broken by the waves and completely lost their power. The people on the warships jumped into the sea, but most of them were drowned by the waves and disappeared without a trace. Send someone to capture a few captives and let the world see my strength, the Sea King ordered. A few pirates rushed to the area where the incident happened in a speedboat. As the waves gradually subsided, only a few figures were left on the surface of the sea. The others had completely sunk into the sea and were nowhere to be found. These people were immediately escorted to the speedboats by the pirates and brought to Sea King Island. The Sea King walked toward the captives proudly. Looking at the frightened expressions of more than 10 captives, he was overjoyed and laughed to the sky.
Chapter 496.
The old man had a natural affinity and was dressed meticulously. Although he had been soaked in the sea, he still had an extraordinary temperament. The Sea King stared at the old man and thought that this man had an extraordinary temperament.
Could he be the King of Sweden, Princess Anne's father?
If so, then this fish was even bigger. Bring him here, the Sea King ordered. The pirates immediately grabbed the old man and the other soldiers jumped up and shouted, "Don't touch him."
Hee, I want to touch him. What can you do?
The Sea King said fiercely as he grabbed the old man's hair. "Sir, please let me go," the old man said politely instead of getting angry.
Hee, look at how anxious they are. Who are you? The Sea King released the old man. The old man straightened up and tidied his clothes.
He bowed slightly to the Sea King and said, "I am the butler of the Swedish royal family, Bruce.
I am in charge of liaising with you regarding Princess Anne."
The Sea King curled his lips and said disappointedly, "So you are just a servant?
How dare you play dumb with me? Believe it or not, I will take your life immediately." The Sea King had underestimated Bruce's identity.
As the butler of the royal family, he was equivalent to Wuxia, the minister of the inner palace in ancient times.
He had great power.
The royal family had sent him to deal with this matter, so he was definitely not negligent.
Hearing the Sea King's threat, Bruce was not afraid.
Instead, he straightened his chest like a warrior and said neither humbly nor overbearingly, "Please take me to see Her Royal Highness." The Sea King sneered, "Okay, I will let you reunite and let you see the good thing between me and her with your own eyes."
Hee. Vulgar, Bruce said.
"I will show you what real vulgarity is in a moment.
Take him away."
The other captives were taken away to be locked up, while Bruce was taken directly to the base camp. When Tang Zheng and the others saw the triumphant return of the Sea King, they all had different expressions, but without exception, they all looked incredulous. On the contrary, Buckteeth strode forward and shouted, "Sea King, are all the enemies dead?"
Haha, of course. Don't you see who's taking action? With me, the Sea King, here, no one can even think of taking down Sea King Island.
The Sea King patted his chest and said confidently,
"Bruce, why are you here?"
When Princess Anne saw Bruce, she turned pale with fright and hurriedly ran towards him. The Sea King stepped forward and blocked Anne's path. He grabbed her arm and smiled proudly.
"Your Highness, we haven't finished our business yet. How can we give up halfway? Buckteeth, hold up the camera. Our program will continue."
Buckteeth hurriedly repositioned the camera and aimed it at the Sea King and Anne. The Sea King faced the camera and said, "Everyone, I've made you wait for a long time because some people have spoiled my mood.
But now, let's continue.
I guarantee that I'll give everyone a wonderful blockbuster. Haha." After the Sea King finished speaking, he immediately attacked Anne. He grabbed her clothes and was about to tear them off. Bruce turned pale with fright and hurriedly stopped him. "Stop, you are not allowed to be rude to Her Royal Highness."
"Don't you want money?
"We've already prepared it and can give it to you right away." The Sea King stopped and sneered at Bruce. "I don't just want money, I want her. Haha." Anne's sleeves were directly torn, revealing skin that seemed to have been moistened by milk.
Hee, so white.
"I believe that it will be even whiter and more beautiful here." The Sea King pointed at Anne's chest and laughed maliciously. His big hand directly reached out to grab it.
Tang Zheng let out a long sigh.
He originally thought that he wouldn't have to do it himself, but it seemed that he had been too naive. The Sea King had used some unknown method to defeat the rescue plan. Now, Tang Zheng had no choice but to rescue her.
Whoosh!
His feet slipped, and like a ghost, he crossed the distance of several meters and arrived at Anne's side. He grabbed her waist and took her from the Sea King's hands. Then, he took a few steps back and returned to his original position. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The others didn't have time to react, especially since the Sea King's hand was still suspended in midair. His speed was too fast. Therefore, only an afterimage was left in the camera. The audience around the world only saw a figure flash, and then Princess Anne disappeared from the camera. Only the Sea King was left standing there like a fool. Princess Anne's face was pale. She thought that she would definitely be humiliated, but she didn't expect the tables to turn. Someone had actually rescued her from the devil's claws. She raised her head slightly, and a familiar face came into view. Ah, why is it him? She had always treated Tang Zheng as an ordinary fisherman and didn't count on him at all. However, at this moment, this fisherman actually showed his prowess and rescued her from the devil's claws. This scene was too romantic. It was like the plot of a phone call. She stared blankly at Tang Zheng, as if she wanted to see through him, or perhaps she wanted to see something different from his face. However, she failed. He was still him. Even his eyes didn't change at all. There was nothing out of the ordinary. However, the more he was like this, the more she was interested in Tang Zheng.
What kind of person was he?
Tang Zheng wasn't in the mood to pay attention to the princess's thoughts. Instead, he looked at the Sea King with a burning gaze. The Sea King finally woke up from his daze and stared at Tang Zheng furiously.
"Who are you?"
That moment just now had made him tense up. He had been wrong all this time. This person that he had almost ignored was actually a hidden master. However, he wasn't afraid. After all, this was his headquarters.
He wasn't even afraid of ships and planes, let alone a single person. You don't have the right to know. Tang Zheng wasn't willing to tell the Sea King his real name. Telling him his real name would be an insult to someone who was worse than an animal. You're courting death. How dare you be so arrogant in my territory? Are you trying to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger? Let me tell you, that's impossible. Even if you were a tiger on my Sea King Island, I would still skin you alive and pull out your tendons, the Sea King roared fiercely. Tang Zheng jokingly said, Really? Then I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to skin me alive and pull out my tendons. When the others heard this, their expressions changed, especially Bruce and Baser. The two of them had already experienced the Sea King's prowess. Seeing that someone dared to be so arrogant in the Sea King's headquarters was an eye-opener for them. They were also incomparably anxious. That was because they had pinned all their hopes on Tang Zheng. If he were to suffer an accident due to his carelessness, then they would lose everything and there would be no hope left. Princess Anne didn't have such complicated thoughts. She didn't notice that she was still lying in Tang Zheng's embrace, but her eyes were getting brighter and brighter. That was because the strong confidence that Tang Zheng had when he spoke was too abnormal. It was completely different from before. Who is he? Why didn't he make a move before? Why did he only come to save me when he saw that I was in danger? He's definitely not a fisherman. So who is he? Could he be a great hero like Zoro? Princess Anne was only 18 years old. In addition to her good upbringing, she also had the fantasies of other girls her age. Therefore, she subconsciously imagined Tang Zheng to be a hero from Western legends. The Sea King had never seen someone so arrogant in front of him. He was unable to restrain his anger. He waved his hand and ordered, "Capture him. I want to skin him alive in front of the whole world." When the audience saw this scene, they were already seething with excitement. Just as Her Highness was about to be killed, a hero had unexpectedly appeared. Many people left comments wanting to see what this lone hero looked like. However, the camera had been focused on the Sea King, so they could only see his ugly face. "Kids, surrender or we'll shoot." Buck Teeth took the lead, and a dozen pirates surrounded Tang Zheng, aiming their guns at him. Tang Zheng hugged and even tighter to prevent her from getting hurt. Their bodies were tightly pressed together, and Anne couldn't help but blush. She had never had such intimate contact with the opposite sex in her entire life. However, she wasn't an unreasonable person. She knew that he was trying to protect her, so she obediently stuck close to him. Her soft and exquisite body leaned against Tang Zheng's, and her soul-stirring elasticity made Tang Zheng's head sway. However, he quickly calmed himself down and looked at the pirates who were surrounding him warily. The Sea King's face revealed a pleased expression, while Bruce and Baser's faces were pale. It seemed that there was no hope now. Only Anne raised her head and looked at his determined face, waiting for him to make a move. Tang Zheng didn't move. Instead, he said, "Do it." The others didn't understand what he meant. Could it be that he had a helper? The answer was soon revealed. Huang Xiang moved, and with a flash of black light, the demon head blade soared into the air and chopped down. Puh! A huge head flew up, and blood spurted into the sky. However, this was just the beginning. Huang Xiang's figure was like a ghost, and in the blink of an eye, he passed by 3 people, turning them into headless corpses. All of this happened so quickly that most people didn't have time to react. Buck Teeth finally reacted and screamed in horror, immediately pulling the trigger. Gunshots immediately sounded like firecrackers, and the bullets flew directly toward Huang Xiang, Tang Zheng, and even Anne. Tang Zheng's hand swiped in front of him, activating the sky-devouring technique. The bullets disappeared without a trace before his eyes, but Huang Xiang didn't dodge at all. He held the demon head blade horizontally in front of his chest, and the clanging sounds of ding-dang rang out incessantly. However, he didn't slow down. With a raise of his hand, the blade fell, and another 4 people lost their lives. Huang Xiang's method of killing was truly vicious. He completely separated the heads of his enemies from their bodies. It was exceptionally bloody and terrifying, and it made the originally brutal pirates experience what fear was. With a panicked cry, a pirate threw down his rifle and fled backward. The others also retreated one after another, their faces pale and trembling. They didn't dare to face this godlike guy again. The Sea King's mouth was wide open, and his jaw almost fell to the ground. He stared at Huang Xiang, flabbergasted.
So this guy wasn't an insignificant and invisible person after all. Chapter 497. Huang Xiang's murderous aura was swift and clean. Everyone was taken aback and felt a chill in their hearts. The Sea King's reaction was extremely fast. He quickly jumped back, took out a colorful conch, and began to blow into it. The melodious sound spread far and wide in an instant. Tang Zheng cursed inwardly. The Sea King must be informing his accomplices. He quickly let go of Princess Annie and rushed towards the Sea King, trying to snatch the conch back. Bang bang bang. The Sea King immediately pulled the trigger, and the bullet whizzed toward Tang Zheng's chest. Tang Zheng easily grabbed the bullet and was about to catch the Sea King. The Sea King was not slow either. He pushed Buckteeth forward and rushed out the back door. Buckteeth took a punch from Tang Zheng and fell to the ground like a dog eating feces. He ran to the back door but found that the Sea King had disappeared into the lush forest. Tang Zheng was about to chase after him when Princess Anne stopped him. Wait a minute. Tang Zheng turned around and asked suspiciously, "What's the matter?" Bruce took the lead and bowed respectfully to Tang Zheng. "Thank you for saving us. May I ask who you are?" Tang Zheng frowned and said, "What are you doing? Let's catch the Sea King first." "I'll go with you." Bezer had regained his freedom, and his warrior genes had awakened. He volunteered. Tang Zheng nodded and said, "Be careful. We only eliminated the pirates in this room. There are many others." Bezer picked up a gun and said fiercely, "This time we must give them a good beating." Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang took the lead and chased after them. Bezer followed closely behind, and was not willing to fall behind and shouted excitedly, "I'll go too." Bruce quickly stopped her. "Your Highness, it's too dangerous. Let's wait for the rescue team." "Humph, this knight is my rescue team." The princess had already recognized the heroic Tang Zheng as a knight. She had a lot of romantic cells in her head. Bruce had no choice but to drag his old body and follow the princess closely in case something unexpected happened. Unfortunately, the audience all over the world could only see a blurry shadow and did not know what exactly happened. However, one thing was certain, and that was that the situation had taken a turn for the better. A knight had appeared and saved the princess from the demons. At the very least, Her Royal Highness referred to this great hero as a knight. Thus, the word knight quickly became popular on the internet. Everyone wanted to see what kind of person the Princess Aura was. Many people fantasized about how good it would be if they were the Princess Aura. That way, they would be able to get close to her. Mr. Knight Tang Zheng shuttled through the jungle. Occasionally, a few pirates would appear, but they were all dealt with by them. Tang Zheng did not show any mercy. Every move was a killing move because the hands of these pirates were stained with the blood of countless innocent people. They were not worthy of pity. In the distance, Tang Zheng finally saw the Sea King. He was already standing on the edge of a steep cliff, looking in the direction of the sea and blowing a conch shell. Although Tang Zheng did not know what the conch shell was used for, he felt that it was not something simple. Thus, he wanted to take it. The Sea King heard the movement behind him and quickly turned around. However, at this moment, there was no fear on his face. Instead, it was complacent and somewhat sinister. "You dare to oppose me, the Sea King? You're dead meat." The Sea King pointed his finger at Tang Zheng and roared confidently. "Let's see who lives and who dies." Tang Zheng was unmoved. He leaped across the distance of several meters and arrived in front of the Sea King. He put two fingers together and stabbed the Sea King's chest like a sharp sword. Boom! With a loud noise, a wave of water shot up into the sky like a huge whip and lashed at Tang Zheng. The strong wind caused the trees around them to be cut in half. Bang! Tang Zheng was hit hard and flew up into the sky like a kite with a broken string. Princess Anne and the others who were chasing after them saw this scene, and opened her mouth wide and screamed in shock. Bruce and Bezer were also stunned. Their faces were pale. The little hope that had risen in their hearts gradually turned into despair. They had seen this towering water column when they were on the ship. Its power was simply unimaginable. Even a ship was cut in half by a water column. How could a person withstand such an attack? Tang Zheng felt that his waist was about to break. He could even hear his bones cracking. This was the result of his carelessness. He thought that the Sea King was at his wit's end.
He did not expect a water column to appear out of nowhere. Why would this water column listen to the Sea King's orders? There were too many questions. Tang Zheng did not have so many questions while he was in the air. His survival instinct made him somersault a few times in the air. Then he did not land. Instead, he straightened his body and stabbed at the water column. Puff! Blood shot up into the sky and mixed with the waves. The waves turned blood red. Then, the waves twisted wildly and fell back into the sea. You've angered the sea god. You're dead. The Sea King was not afraid. Instead, his face revealed a ferocious and crazy expression. Tang Zheng landed steadily and asked coldly, "What sea god?" "You'll know how powerful the sea god is soon." As soon as he finished speaking, a roar came from the sea. Then, 9 water columns shot up into the sky and slapped at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng jumped away. The water column hit the opposite side and a huge crack appeared. The ground under their feet cracked as if there was an earthquake. They all dodged. This is not seawater. It's a demonic beast. Tang Zheng finally found a clue. There was a trace of demonic aura coming from the water column. Although it was not obvious because of the seawater, it could not escape Tang Zheng, who had dealt with demonic beasts for a long time. This demonic beast's strength was definitely not inferior to the sky thundercloud beast. Although Tang Zheng had not seen its body, he knew that its size was definitely not ordinary. The others were so scared that they could only open their mouths. 9 water columns shot up into the sky. This scene that violated the laws of physics had a huge impact on them. "Huang Xiang, let's attack together and make it show its true form," Tang Zheng shouted. The 2 of them rushed out of the cliff, one on the left and one on the right. They directly pounced on the water column. Bang bang! The 2 of them collided with the water column. Huang Xiang's ghost head blade chopped down on the water pillar, causing blood to flow out, but he stopped his falling body. Tang Zheng directly hugged the water pillar and punched it again and again, causing the water pillar to splatter everywhere and blood to spread everywhere. The water column kept twisting, and the water vapor filled the sky. It evaporated in an instant, forming a big fog that completely blocked the 2 of them and the 9 water columns. The others could not see the situation clearly, and even the Sea King was flabbergasted as he watched this scene. Clearly, Tang Zheng and Huang Xiang's strength had greatly exceeded his expectations. In the past, as long as the sea god was summoned, all difficulties would be solved. All enemies would be turned into ashes in an instant. However, this time there was obviously an exception. He did not know whether it was a blessing or a curse, and was stunned for a while and said, "Do we need to help?" Baser and Bruce looked at each other and looked at the guns in their hands. They felt a strong sense of powerlessness. In front of an enemy of this level, they seemed to be extra. They could not help at all. They were indeed powerless. Tang Zheng had already put his life on the line. Punch after punch, every punch landed on flesh. Water droplets splashed everywhere, and mist filled the air. After the water column shed its disguise, its true form was finally revealed. It was a huge tentacle. Octopus monster. Tang Zheng recognized the monster's true form at a glance. However, it was not a small octopus on the dining table, but a giant. Each tentacle was 50 meters long, and its head was hidden under the water, so he could not see it clearly. Now that he knew what kind of monster it was, Tang Zheng calmed down. He took out the dragon trapping rope and tied the 2 tentacles together. Huang Xiang also cut off one of the tentacles with a few moves. Roar, roar! Strange roars came from the sea below. They were full of anger and killing intent. Tang Zheng was unmoved. He put 2 fingers together and slashed at the tentacle. After a while, the tentacle was full of holes and broke in the middle. In this way, 2 of the 9 tentacles were cut off, and the other 2 were tied up by the dragon trapping rope. There were only 5 tentacles left, and its combat power was greatly reduced. Tang Zheng was enraptured. He shouted, "Huang Xiang, let's work together and kill it for real." Suddenly, the 2 people's attacks became fiercer. However, the octopus monster did not wait for its death. It roared, and the huge suckers on its tentacles glowed. What's going on? Tang Zheng was shocked. He found that there was a huge suction force on the suckers, which seemed to be tearing people's bodies apart. The 2 people were attracted by the huge suckers and could not move, let alone fight back. Bang bang!
The two people were hit by the other two tentacles, and they could not help but show a painful expression. Oh no, I didn't expect this monster to have such a move. If I didn't attack at close range, I wouldn't have been sucked in, and I wouldn't be unable to move. Now, I'm really a fish on the chopping board. The people on the island looked at each other in dismay when they saw the whirlpool churning and the strange roars coming one after another. They did not look good. The Sea King looked proud. He said, "Now you know how powerful I am. Let me tell you, they're dead for sure, and so are you. Princess, and I must have you today. My knight will definitely defeat the sea god you mentioned. You're the one who's doomed." And raised her neck, full of confidence, and was tall and had long legs. She had a good temperament. At this moment, with her neck raised, she showed a sense of arrogance, which increased her charm and made people's hearts sway. The Sea King licked his lips and found that the pirates under his command were gradually gathering. He waved his hand and ordered in high spirits, "Capture them for me. When the sea god gets rid of the two people, I'll deal with them slowly." Chapter 498. Bezer picked up his rifle and shouted at the approaching pirate, "Don't come close or we will shoot." Bang bang bang, the pirate took the lead and Bruce immediately threw Her Royal Highness to the ground and shouted, "Princess, be careful." Bezer immediately pulled the trigger and fired back, and covered Anne and Bruce to find trees to hide. The two sides fought fiercely at a distance of 10 meters, and the situation was worrying. Tang Zheng's situation was also worrying. His face was already red, and the blood in his body seemed to be boiling. It was about to be sucked out of his body by the suction cup, and he would explode and die. On the other side, Huang Xiang's state was almost the same, and he was struggling to hold on. Damn it, I must find a way to resist this attraction. Yes, attraction. Suddenly, Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. "You are not the only one in this world who is attractive. I also have the devouring sky technique." Hub Tang Zheng silently used the Heart Sutra, and his palm immediately produced a huge attraction force, and the air was sucked into the mysterious space in Tang Zheng's palm. Moreover, this attraction force offset the attraction force in the suction cup, and Tang Zheng finally regained his freedom. He kicked the tentacle with his toes and jumped to Huang Xiang's side. Using the same method, he aimed his palm at the suction cup and used the devouring sky technique to completely offset the attraction force. Roar roar. Seeing this scene, the octopus monster let out a series of roars, mixed with shock. "Since you use this kind of attraction force, then I will also use the devouring sky technique. Let's see who is more attractive between us." Tang Zheng frantically ran the devouring sky technique, and his palm pressed on the tentacle, and the tentacle immediately swayed wildly, and it seemed to be aware of the danger. Several other tentacles immediately whipped at Tang Zheng, hoping to drive him away. Tang Zheng wouldn't let go so easily. He ordered Huang Xiang to resist the attack of the other tentacles and concentrate on dealing with one tentacle. Puff! In the face of the devouring sky technique, the octopus monster's attack seemed to be particularly fragile. The tentacle had rapidly cracked at a speed visible to the naked eye, and pieces of flesh fell off directly and were sucked into the mysterious space. In the blink of an eye, one of the tentacles disappeared without a trace. The octopus monster writhed in pain. Waves rose into the air, and a huge whirlpool appeared on the surface of the sea. Tang Zheng followed suit and hugged another tentacle. After a while, this tentacle also turned into a pool of blood and was sucked away. This time, the octopus monster was truly afraid. It let out a series of earth-shattering screams. The whirlpool on the surface of the sea spun faster and faster, and the tentacles quickly fell into the sea. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. "You want to escape? It's not that easy." With a wave of his hand, one end of the dragon-trapping rope flew into his hand, while the other end tightly tied the two tentacles together, leaving the octopus monster with no way to escape. "Just now you wanted to kill us. Now you want to escape? How can it be so simple? You are helping the tyrant. Today is the day you die." Tang Zheng finally understood why the Sea King was so arrogant. It turned out that he had the support of a demonic beast. Otherwise, how could he possibly lead a ragtag group of pirates against a regular army? The mystery was solved. As long as he killed this demonic beasts, the Sea King would be nothing. Of course, Tang Zheng was also very surprised that there was such a big demonic beasts in the ocean. This was not the prehistoric heavenly tomb in the 10,000 huge mountains. It had to be known that other than places like the prehistoric heavenly tomb that had restrictions, New Era scheme back then had sucked almost all the demonic beasts in the world into the sky. A powerful demonic beasts like this octopus monster should not exist in this world, but it had actually appeared in front of him.
What did this mean?
This meant that unless there was a place like the prehistoric heavenly tomb in the ocean, or it was a new demonic beast that had been cultivated after that incident.
But if that was the case, the octopus monster's cultivation speed would be shockingly fast. No matter what the situation was, Tang Zheng wanted to investigate it thoroughly. Therefore, if he could capture the octopus monster alive, it would be the best way. Seeing that it was unable to break free from Tang Zheng's restraints, the octopus monster kept twisting its body, and its cries became more and more mournful. However, Tang Zheng was unmoved. Instead, he allowed Huang Ziyang to cut off another 2 tentacles, and he also used the heaven-devouring technique to devour a tentacle. Now, this gigantic octopus monster only had 2 tentacles left that were bound by the dragon-trapping rope. It did not have much power to resist. At this moment, His Highness Princess and the other 2 no longer had the strength to resist. The bullets had already been used up, and the pirates swarmed forward and captured the 3 of them. The Sea King swaggered over and pulled An into his embrace. Just as he was about to take action, he realized that the ground beneath his feet was shaking. This was an earthquake. Cracks appeared on the ground, and many pirates were swallowed up by the cracks. They did not even have time to scream. Everyone panicked. Even the Sea King was dumbstruck, not knowing what had happened. Boom, boom, boom. The cracks in the ground grew larger and larger. Rocks fell into the sea one after another, and all sorts of trees were buried in the sea. The Sea King and the others fell from the cliff and directly into the sea. Ah! Screams resounded through the sky. Everyone's mind went blank. Many pirates fell into the sea and were swallowed up by the tumbling sea, disappearing without a trace. Just as the Sea King and Princess touched the surface of the water, 4 bubbles emerged from the sea and enveloped them. The 3 of them, who were still in shock, were speechless when they saw this. Only the Sea King seemed to have woken up from a dream. He shouted excitedly, "The Sea God has shown his power! The Sea God has shown his power!" However, he did not understand why the Sea God had shown his power. The ones who died were indeed his subordinates. Of course, as long as he was not dead, the lives of the others were his to decide. He would not pay too much attention to them. However, the next scene shocked the 4 of them, who were lucky enough to escape with their lives. Sea King Island disappeared. The rocks, soil, and trees were all gone. Only a circular platform the size of a basketball court was left on the surface of the sea. The platform quickly sank into the sea, and their bubbles sank as well. After a while, they completely disappeared. It was as if the island had never existed. Only the mist remained, indicating what had happened just now. Tang Zheng held on to the dragon-trapping rope and did not let go. He allowed the octopus monster to continue to struggle. Gradually, its strength became weaker and weaker until it finally stopped struggling. Its head floated above the water. Tang Zheng jumped and landed on the octopus monster's head. Its huge eyes were intimidating, but Tang Zheng was not afraid. He stared at it and said jokingly, "Why aren't you moving? I'd like to see how long you can struggle." "You? Who are you?" The octopus monster was frightened and spoke in human language. "Hee hee, it's good that you can speak human language. It's convenient for me to ask. As for who I am, you have no right to know. Aren't humans supposed to be weak? Why are you so powerful?" The octopus monster asked with its big eyes. Tang Zheng laughed. "You think that humans are weak, so you want to bully and humiliate them, right? Let me tell you, there are strong people among humans. I'm a cultivator. It's your bad luck to encounter me." "Cultivator? What's that?" The octopus monster was puzzled. That's strange. You're a monster, but you don't know about cultivators." Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes. This was beyond his expectations. Do monsters have to know about cultivators? Tang Zheng frowned. This demonic beast was a little strange. Could it be that he had never come into contact with cultivators before? If that was the case, then it must have only cultivated into a spirit after the cultivator entered the sky beyond heaven. Because only in this way would it not encounter cultivators, and would not know of the existence of cultivators. But if that was the case,
then according to its cultivation speed, it could definitely be considered a genius among the demonic beasts. Tang Zheng developed a strong interest in it.
The mist disappeared.
Tang Zheng was preparing to deal with the Sea King first before interrogating this monster. However, when he looked up, his eyes immediately widened.
His mouth was so big that a duck egg could be stuffed in it. Damn, what's going on? Where's Sea King Island? Why is it gone? This scene really made Tang Zheng scratch his head. A pirate club disappeared for no reason in the blink of an eye, as if it had never appeared. Anyone would be surprised by this. He was puzzled and could only turn his hope to the octopus monster.
Where's the Sea King Island? The octopus monster said. I won't tell you.
Oh, you have some backbone. Interesting. Let's see how long you can last.
Huang Xiang, dig out one of its eyeballs. Tang Zheng did not talk nonsense and directly ordered. A trace of panic flashed in the octopus monster's eyes. It immediately let out a scream because Huang Xiang raised his knife and a huge eyeball floated on the sea.
Ah, I'm going to kill you.
The octopus monster cried out miserably.
Tang Zheng smiled gently.
Hee, I can kill you now, but you can't pose a threat to me at all. Tell me what's going on, or you won't be able to keep your other eyeball.
I'll make you wish you were dead. I'll talk.
The octopus monster did not have much backbone and immediately begged for mercy.
Gue Qiansui left, so the island naturally disappeared.
Gue Qiansui.
Tang Zheng stared suspiciously.
Yes, this island was built on Gue Qiansui's back.
It dived into the sea, so the island naturally disappeared. It must have seen that I was not your opponent, so it ran away. It's a coward.
The octopus monster angrily cursed. Tang Zheng suddenly realized that the island was actually built on top of a tortoise shell. Without a doubt, this Gue Qiansui was definitely a demonic beast. Why were there so many monsters in the sea?
Did he poke into a monster nest? Where did they go?
Tang Zheng asked. The octopus monster hesitated and said, The Crystal Palace.
Take me there.
No, I can't take you there.
The octopus monster immediately refused. Oh, it seems that you don't want to live.
No, even if you kill me, I can't take you there. The octopus monster's attitude was very firm.
Chapter 499. Gurgle.
Several bubbles burst on the surface of the water, and a white figure jumped out of the water. Tang Zheng's eyes lit up and he said happily, Xiaobai!
Squeak!
Xiaobai shook his head and wagged his tail at Tang Zheng, looking very cute. When Tang Zheng was taken away by Buckteeth, Xiaobai had escaped and followed him all the way. Now, he finally showed himself. Little White excitedly pointed at the water, and then used a pair of small claws to draw a big circle. Tang Zheng seemed to understand and asked, Tortoise. Xiaobai quickly nodded and pointed at the water again. Do you know where Gue Qiansui went?
Tang Zheng's heart moved and he asked.
Xiaobai nodded.
Haha, Xiaobai, you're really good.
Hee, little octopus, you don't need to speak now.
Tang Zheng smiled proudly.
It's a pity that the people on Sea King Island were buried in the sea. That beautiful princess and really had a hard life. She was as beautiful as a flower in jade, but she died just like that. The octopus monster looked at Xiaobai in disbelief. It couldn't see anything special about Xiaobai, so it found it hard to believe that he knew where Gue Qiansui went. Diving into the deep sea, Tang Zheng couldn't hold his breath for a long time with his cultivation, so he summoned Qi, a venerable of 4 symbols. When the huge body of the venerable of 4 symbols appeared, the octopus monster's eyes almost popped out. It turned pale with fright and cried out, What's going on?
What is this thing? It couldn't help but tremble.
The pressure coming from the venerable of 4 symbols made it tremble with fear.
Tang Zheng's lips curled. Now you know that it's easy for me to deal with you.
Be good and don't suffer physical pain. The octopus monster's pupils shrank. It kept quiet out of fear and looked at the venerable of 4 symbols who was gradually sinking into the sea. Tang Zheng jumped into the body of the guardian of 4 symbols. The guardian of 4 symbols grabbed the dragon snaring rope and dragged the octopus monster, which only had 2 tentacles left, to the bottom of the sea. Huang Xiang and Xiaobai stood on the shoulders of the 4 symbols venerable. The bottom of the sea was pitch black, making it impossible for them to determine their direction. However, this was not a problem for Xiaobai. It opened its small mouth and spat out a ball of flames. This ball of flame floated in the sea and did not extinguish. It illuminated the surroundings. Many fish swam past them at the bottom of the sea and looked at this scene in amazement. The octopus monster was horrified. It trembled with fear and did not dare to make a sound. Xiaobai pointed out a direction, and the four symbols paragons strode forward, dragging the octopus monster with them. Their speed was not slow at all. Suddenly, Xiaobai called out anxiously. Tang Zheng asked thoughtfully, "Are we almost there?" Xiaobai quickly nodded. "Then let's be quiet." The four symbols paragons slowed down. Suddenly, Tang Zheng saw the octopus monster swim backward with all its might. Apparently, it did not want to go forward. However, its body was bound by the dragon's snaring rope, so all of this was useless. It could only struggle continuously, causing the sea to churn. Tang Zheng's expression sank as he shouted sternly, "Little octopus, are you trying to inform your companions?" "No, we can't go to the Crystal Palace. We'll die if we go. Lord Sea God will definitely think that I'm leading the way and kill me," the octopus monster cried out in panic. Sea God. Tang Zheng had heard the Sea King mention this name before. The Sea King had called the octopus monster the Sea God, so why did this little octopus say that the Sea God was someone else? Hearing Tang Zheng's question, the octopus monster quickly explained, "That's because the Sea King doesn't know the situation and thinks that I'm the Sea God. In fact, I'm just a subordinate of the Sea God. Lord Sea God is omnipotent, so we'll definitely die if we go." Tang Zheng's eyes lit up. Interesting. This means that the Sea God is really powerful. Since he's so powerful, then all the more reason for me to meet him. He did not make this decision on a whim because he realized that Xiaobai was leading him in the same direction as the Dragon Palace. Therefore, whether it was for the sake of the Dragon Palace or to meet the so-called Sea God, he had to continue forward. "You're courting death," the octopus monster cried out in fright. "Is that so? We'll naturally find out later." Tang Zheng was unmoved as he dragged the octopus monster and sped up. Soon, a beam of light appeared in the distance. It was definitely unusual for a beam of light to appear in the deep sea. "We've arrived at the Crystal Palace," the octopus monster said with trepidation. Tang Zheng focused his gaze. Sure enough, as far as his eyes could see, there was a magnificent palace under the dazzling light. This palace was actually made of crystal. It was magnificent, like a scene from a dream. It was definitely much more beautiful than the castles in a girl's imagination. A majestic aura rushed out, causing people to involuntarily want to submit. Moreover, Tang Zheng also felt a trace of a familiar aura. Dragon Qi. Tang Zheng widened his eyes. He had absorbed the dragon Qi of the five-clawed golden dragon before, so he was very familiar with this aura. Although the aura coming from the Crystal Palace was not strong, it could not escape Tang Zheng's perception. When he took a few steps closer, a huge lifelike statue came into view. His breathing involuntarily quickened. The statue was a huge head. It was very majestic with its mouth wide open, as if it wanted to swallow the audience into its stomach. It made people's hearts palpitate. A pair of huge eyes and a long neck made the statue even more vivid, as if it was a living creature. Tang Zheng was too familiar with this appearance. This was a statue of a dragon's head. According to the description of the five-clawed golden dragon, the Dragon Palace had its eyes on this statue. This meant that the Crystal Palace in front of him was the famous Dragon Palace, his destination. Tang Zheng's breathing involuntarily became hurried, and he thought, the five-clawed golden dragon only pointed out the direction, and it will definitely take a lot of effort to find a dragon palace in the middle of the ocean. I have already made preparations for this, but I did not expect that I would wear out iron shoes in vain, and would be able to find the dragon palace without any effort. Haha, the heavens are really helping me. Hearing Tang Zheng's laughter, the octopus monster shrank back in fear. It was as if he was looking at a fool. Death was at hand, but he still knew how to laugh. In a moment, he would not be able to laugh anymore. The octopus monster could no longer laugh. His eyes were even uglier than crying. Tang Zheng also figured out the ins and outs of the matter. This dragon palace had been abandoned for too long. Then it was occupied by this group of sea demons. From then on, They became the overlords of the sea and supported the puppet Sea King. As for why the cultivation of this group of sea demons was so strong, it definitely had a lot to do with this dragon palace. In short, for the heaven and earth obsidian, he had no choice but to confront this group of demon beasts. Stop, who are you people? Suddenly, a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals blocked their path. However, looking at the tall four symbols venerable, the other party was clearly afraid. Tang Zheng said indifferently, "Call out your sea god." "How dare you? Lord Sea God is not someone you can meet as you wish.
What kind of monster are you?
Hurry up and surrender." The prawn soldiers and crab generals shouted angrily one after another, looking quite imposing. Suddenly, they saw the octopus monster. Their eyes lit up and said, "Octopus, could it be that you brought this monster back? Lord Sea God won't let you go." The octopus monster hurriedly denied. "It wasn't me. He followed Gue Qiansui here. It has nothing to do with me. I was forcefully dragged here by him." Gue Qiansui said that you fought with two humans and were no match for them. Could it be that this human is him? The other party pointed at Huang Ziang on the four symbols venerable's shoulder and asked.
He is one of them.
The other person is inside this big guy's body. He is even more powerful. The octopus monster said anxiously. Tang Zheng did not stop him and said directly, "You group of sea demons killed the innocent and occupied the dragon palace. Today, I will enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and destroy you all."
Dragon palace?
The shrimp soldiers and crab generals turned their heads to look at the crystal palace. Obviously, they did not know the origin of this crystal palace. Nonsense, this is Lord Sea God's palace.
How could it be a dragon palace?
The shrimp soldiers and crab generals denied loudly. Tang Zheng was too lazy to waste his breath on them and said indifferently, "Since you don't want to pass on the message, I will go in myself." The four symbols venerable raised his leg and swept it towards the group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. They used all of their abilities to block, but unfortunately, the two sides were not on the same level at all. Miserable screams rang out one after another as the shrimp soldiers and crab generals were swept away and sent flying far away. A few of them flew directly into the arched door of the dragon palace. When they flew into the arched door, a faint light rippled out.
Tang Zheng's eyes lit up.
It turned out that the dragon palace was covered by a layer of glass silk. There was no seawater inside, only air. What was even more shocking was that after the shrimp soldiers and crab generals flew into the arched door, their bodies quickly shrank. Otherwise, their huge bodies would have destroyed the dragon palace. This dragon palace is really magical. Tang Zheng had never seen a building that could shrink a person's body. He could not help but feel that it was somewhat magical. Back then, when the dragon clan abandoned this dragon palace, it was a big deal. The five-clawed golden dragon was right. The dragon clan is indeed a magical clan, Tang Zheng thought. However, Tang Zheng did not rashly rush into the arched door. This was because he did not know if there were any dangers or ambushes inside.
You have caused a disaster this time.
It is still not too late to run away. Otherwise you will die without a doubt. The octopus demon advised with an ashen face. Tang Zheng was unmoved and shouted, "Could it be that the people inside are all cowards? You have taken over the dragon palace but don't dare to come out." Suddenly, a figure flew out from the dragon palace and stood under the arched door. He glared at Tang Zheng and said, "Nonsense, who are you?
I will kill you."
After taking a closer look, Tang Zheng blinked in surprise. This person was handsome and had long hair that fluttered in the wind. However, there was a protruding horn on his forehead.
Demonic beast,
Tang Zheng suddenly realized. This guy must be the so-called sea god. He had actually transformed into a human form. However, the horn on his head indicated that the transformation was not very successful. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.